Chapter 437. A ray of golden light suddenly lit up a corner of the sky. Immediately after, a diamond-like figure rose into the air and followed the golden light into the sky. It spread its wings, revealing a huge body that was nearly 50 meters long. This huge body was almost transparent, and the scales all over its body were like diamond-cut lines. Above its head, there was a dazzling golden brilliance, as if it was wearing a crown. The golden light from before was also emitted from this crown. When it spread its wings in the sky and stabilized its body, an invisible majesty immediately spread. Even in the terrifying demon territory of the Earth Dragon ancestor, it was still able to stay in a corner. Saint Tyr, another Saint Tyr. The giant dragon in the sky that seemed to be carved out of diamond once again shocked Ji Dong. He was sure that this giant dragon flying in the sky was also a Saint Tyr existence. Even though its power was not as terrifying as the Earth Dragon ancestors, its appearance vaguely gave off a feeling of being on par with the Earth Dragon ancestor. Without the power of a Saint Tyr, how could it fly in the sky in the face of such a terrifying pressure from the Earth Dragon ancestor? It should be known that even the heavenly stem holy disciples in the 5 elements coexistence cycle formation were bitterly holding on, constantly using the mutual generation and cycle of ultimate demon power to resist the Earth Dragon ancestors' terrifying pressure. Seeing the appearance of the diamond giant dragon in the sky, the Earth Dragon ancestor seemed to have calmed down a little. He said, "Griffin greets your majesty." It turned out that the Earth Dragon ancestor's name was Griffin, and the other Saint Tyr giant dragon flying in the sky was the current clan leader of the Dragon Clan, the first Dragon Emperor. Respected Earth Dragon ancestor, you don't have to be so courteous. Can you tell me what happened to actually cause such an intense fluctuation in your emotions? The entire Dragon Clan was startled awake because of your emotional fluctuations. Although the Dragon Emperor was very respectful towards the Earth Dragon ancestor, one could also hear that he was somewhat reprimanding the Earth Dragon ancestor's current behavior. The Earth Dragon ancestor's huge body shook vigorously, and his big yellow eyes were filled with excitement. He said, "Bloodline, I smell the same bloodline as mine. That's right, it's the same bloodline as mine. I can't be wrong. Child, I didn't expect my child to still be in this world." The Dragon Emperor was stunned for a moment, and then he said, "Respected Earth Dragon ancestor, every single member of our Dragon Clan is your descendant." "No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about my bloodline. I can smell my wife's scent in it. My daughter is actually still in this world. She's actually still alive." As it spoke, the Earth Dragon ancestor suddenly lowered its head. Its seemingly solid light instantly froze on Ajin's body. Ji Dong was stunned. The heavenly stem saints were stunned. Ajin was even more stunned. Even the Dragon Emperor was stunned. No wonder the Earth Dragon ancestor was so agitated. The Dragon Emperor understood now. Every generation of Dragon Emperors knew very well what had happened to the Earth Dragon ancestor. The Earth Dragon ancestor had sacrificed too much for his lover, who wasn't of the same race. It was obvious how much he treasured his lover. His Earth Dragon descendants weren't born from him and his lover. Instead, they were descendants that the Earth Dragon ancestor had mated with other dragon clans after his personality had undergone a huge change. Or rather, they were descendants of forced mating. Who knew how many years had passed? Although the Earth Dragon ancestor wasn't as violent as he used to be, his feelings for his lover had never been forgotten. At this moment, he suddenly felt the scent of his lover and the scent of his bloodline. How could he not be agitated after slumbering in 3 Unity mountain range for so many years? The Dragon Emperor retracted his wings and slowly descended from the sky, landing beside the Earth Dragon ancestor. His body was already huge enough, but in front of the Earth Dragon ancestor, he seemed like a child. "Respected Earth Dragon ancestor, is what you said true? There's actually a child of yours among these young humans?" The Dragon Emperor exclaimed in astonishment. At this moment, the Dragon Emperor was the most shocked. Firstly, it was because of the Earth Dragon ancestors' agitated emotions. Secondly, it was because of the living humans in front of him. He had sensed the Earth Dragon ancestors' attack just now, and these humans in front of him had obviously suffered from the Earth Dragon ancestors' attack. They were still alive, and the power of the 5 elements yin-yang world that they released was so powerful. Not only was it completely released by the devil energy, but it was also fused into one. Yin and yang were in balance, and there was also a chaotic and creative aura. If it wasn't for the fact that he could clearly see the level of the yin-yang corona above their heads, the Dragon Emperor would really think that these young humans were the supreme experts of the human race. It had been many years since humans had entered this place with their own strength. In the outside world, although there were a certain number of true Dragon Knights, such as the commanders of the elite armies of the 5 empires, they were all Dragon Knight. However, it wasn't because they had entered this place with the Dragon Clan's approval. Instead, it was because the empires and the Dragon Clan had reached an agreement in the early years. Every once in a while, the Dragon Clan would allow them to send a few people to the Dragon Clan's assessment. Those who passed the assessment could become Dragon Knights, just like Lang Tiany's father, Lang Xie. However, Ji Dong and the rest in front of him had entered this place with their own strength. In addition, they had the 5 elements yin-yang world that was filled with devil energy. Even the Dragon Emperor couldn't help but be curious. The Dragon Emperor's gaze also landed on Ajin. At this moment, being stared at by 2 great Saint-class experts, the Earth Dragon Ancestor and the Dragon Emperor, Ajin did not feel good. Fortunately, with the 5 elements yin-yang world as a barrier, even the pressure of a Saint-class expert could not affect her directly. Young human experts, you should be proud of yourselves for being able to come here. However, you have caused the emotions of the respected Earth Dragon Ancestor to fluctuate. No matter what, you have to give the Earth Dragon Ancestor an explanation. Otherwise, even I won't be able to guarantee your safety. Ji Dong said in a low voice, "Greetings, Your Majesty." The Earth Dragon Ancestor's emotions fluctuated too suddenly. I can understand from his words. Is he saying that Ajin is his daughter? He's from the dragon race, while Ajin is a human. On what basis does he think that Ajin is his daughter? The Earth Dragon Ancestor's gigantic body moved slowly. He lowered his upper body and moved closer to the Heavenly Stem holy disciples, saying, "Based on bloodline alone, what flows in her body is the bloodline of mine and my wife. Other than being my child, there is no other possibility. As for why my daughter is a human, this question is very easy to answer. Because my wife is a human, and it is precisely because of the union between us that I ended up in this state." The expressions of the Heavenly Stem saints became a little strange. The Earth Dragon Ancestor's body was 150 meters tall. Even if he wasn't as huge as he was now, he was still a member of the dragon race. Disregarding whether humans and dragons could develop feelings for each other, the difference in their sizes meant that it was impossible for a dragon and a human to get together, and it was even more impossible for them to have children. The Earth Dragon Ancestor said rather anxiously, "Kids, I know what you're suspecting. Dragon Emperor, I can't do it now, but you can prove it for me." As he spoke, his eyes remained fixed on Ajin. It definitely didn't feel good to be stared at by such a huge pair of eyes. Ajin's gaze lost its sharpness and was replaced by a sense of loss. Ever since she had been saved by the flaming bar, she had forgotten everything about her past. Even her name, Ajin, was given to her by the flaming bar. Now that a dragon had suddenly appeared and claimed to be her father, one could imagine what she was feeling. The Dragon Emperor looked at the Earth Dragon Ancestor and shook his head helplessly. The dazzling light that was emitting from his body suddenly disappeared, and he folded his wings on his back. In the next moment, to everyone's surprise, the Dragon Emperor's huge body began to shrink. A faint white halo surrounded the Dragon Emperor's body, as if it was the white light that was causing his body to shrink continuously. In just a short while, he had shrunk to a height of about 2 meters. When the white light that clearly carried chaotic fluctuations disappeared, a handsome middle-aged man appeared in front of everyone. The heavenly stem holy disciples were dumbfounded when they saw this. They simply could not believe their eyes. A dragon could actually turn into a human. This had completely surpassed the scope of their understanding. The Dragon Emperor said calmly, "This is an ability unique to the Dragon Clan, transformation. Only dragons whose cultivation has broken through to the saint stage can do this. Back then, the Earth Dragon ancestor was an Earth Element Diamond Dragon like me, and he was also a saint stage. Naturally, he could turn into a human and fall in love with a human woman. Although the chances of him having children were not high, it was not impossible." The Earth Dragon ancestor's deep voice trembled slightly. He blinked his huge dragon eyes in front of Ajin and said, "Child, are you really my child? Can you tell me how you managed to survive until now? Where is your mother?" Ajin looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor in a daze. She kept shaking her head and said, I don't know. I don't have a mother, and I don't have a father. I don't know anything." At this point, she suddenly turned around and ran. She felt as if her brain was about to explode. Although she could not remember anything, she was panicking like never before. Chen Sichuan transmitted a thought to Ji Dong, then immediately turned around and chased after her. When the others wanted to chase after her as well, they were stopped by Ji Dong. "Sichuan will be enough. Ajin needs some peace and quiet." The Earth Dragon ancestor panicked, but he was not willing to stop them either. He said, "What should I do? What should I do? She is my daughter. She must be my daughter. I will not mistake my own bloodline." Ji Dong said, "Senior, I can answer your questions because you can say that I brought Ajin back." The Earth Dragon ancestor turned his gaze to Ji Dong. Ji Dong said, "You should know about the Holy Evil Island, right?" The Earth Dragon ancestor nodded and said, "I know. It doesn't seem to have existed for a long time." Ji Dong was speechless when he heard the Earth Dragon ancestor's words. The Holy Evil Island didn't exist for a long time. However, compared to the Earth Dragon ancestor's long lifespan, perhaps the Holy Evil Island really hadn't existed for a long time. Ji Dong then told him how he entered the Holy Evil Island to participate in the Holy Evil battle, how he encountered Ajin's ice sculpture, how he rescued her from the island, and how the flaming bar melted the ice on her body and helped her revive. Of course, he did not know the entire process of the flaming bar reviving Ajin. Amnesia? She actually lost her memory? The Earth Dragon ancestor murmured, That's right. When the Holy Evil Island was formed, it rose from the bottom of the sea. After my lover left, she knew how to save me. She could only go to the bottom of the East Sea to find the 10th grade demon weapon Frenzy Bladefish, and obtain its blood to save me. She must have gone to the bottom of the sea to save me, but was frozen there by the demon weapon Frenzy Bladefish. She appeared on the surface with the existence of the Holy Evil Island. Only the demon weapon Frenzy Bladefish's 10,000 years old mysterious cold ice could maintain her vitality for such a long time. Yes, that must be it. The more he spoke, the more excited he became about Ji Dong. His huge body kept trembling, causing a series of tremors on the ground, as if it would collapse at any time. Ji Dong could not help but be shocked by the Earth Dragon ancestor's words. It turned out that Ajin was not frozen on the Holy Evil Island, but had been frozen there many years before the Holy Evil Island was formed. At that time, the Dragon Clan had just appeared. It seemed that Ajin's age was extremely terrifying. Ji Dong smiled and said, I also hope that your guess is correct. If that's the case, then I must congratulate you and your daughter for reuniting. The Earth Dragon ancestor said excitedly, Kid, hurry up and bring my daughter back. Let me see what she looks like. When they had first arrived, the Earth Dragon ancestor's attention had been focused on Ji-dong, who was the strongest among them. He did not notice Ah-jin. Later on, during the battle, Ah-jin had already put on her armor and covered her face with a helmet, so the Earth Dragon ancestor did not have any impression of her appearance. Ji-dong nodded and did not move. He directly sent a message to Chen Sichuan, who was not far away, through soul ripples. The Earth Dragon ancestor's voice was extremely loud. Even though Ah-jin had already run some distance away, she could still hear it clearly. However, she felt even more confused. Is he really my father? Chen Sichuan pulled Ah-jin back and arrived before the Earth Dragon ancestor. Ah-jin raised her head and looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor's somewhat hideous body. She slowly took off her helmet. Chapter 438. Ah-jin slowly took off her helmet, revealing her cold and beautiful face. Looking at her face, the Earth Dragon ancestor was instantly stunned. Even the Dragon Emperor's eyes lit up. Ah-jin's beauty was second only to Chen Sichuan's among the women of the Heavenly Stem Saint sect. At this moment, Chen Sichuan was still using a veil to cover her face. Naturally, she was the most beautiful one. Not to mention that she was the center of attention. Child, you're just as beautiful as your mother. How many years has it been? How many years has it been? If I hadn't seen you, even though your mother was the one I loved the most, I would have almost forgotten what she looked like. I really didn't think that I would have the chance to see you again one day. Child, my child, there's no doubt about it. You must be my daughter. The Heavenly Stem Saints fell silent. Most of them didn't even know that Ah-jin was rescued from the Holy Evil Island by Ji-dong, let alone anything else. Who would have thought that Ah-jin was the child of a dragon and had the bloodline of the dragon race? At this moment, Ah-jin was completely dumbfounded as well. Looking at the Earth Dragon ancestor, her eyes flickered incessantly. At this moment, she, who had always been cold and aloof, was actually at a loss as to what to do. She would rather fight against the Earth Dragon ancestor than to be at a loss like this, not knowing what to do. At this moment, Chen Sichuan came to Ah-jin's side and held her hand tightly. Ah-jin turned to look at her, and the two women's eyes met. Ah-jin saw the light of encouragement and support in Chen Sichuan's eyes, and her heart immediately calmed down. Senior, you said that Ah-jin is your daughter. That's only what you know, but we don't. Tell us what happened back then. The one who spoke was naturally Ji-dong. The Earth Dragon ancestor's words were extremely trustworthy. After all, with his cultivation, there was no reason for him to lie to them. Not to mention the Dragon Emperor beside him, just the Earth Dragon ancestor Griffin alone had the ability to kill them. The Earth Dragon ancestor let out a long sigh. Instantly, he raised a huge current of air and slowly stood up. All right, for the sake of my daughter, what's the big deal about bringing back the memories of the past? The Dragon Emperor stood quietly at the side, not intending to disturb him. He looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor with undisguised respect. One must know that the Earth Dragon ancestor was not only the ancestor of the Earth Dragons, but also the ancestor of the Dragon Emperor's bloodline. The birth of the dragon race is extremely simple. You humans love to record down history. However, how much of the history that has been passed down to this day is accurate? The ancestor of the Earth Dragon said slowly. His gigantic eyes shone with a look of reminiscence. The dragon race is the same as the other races. All of us were born from the primal chaos. The dragon race possesses a powerful body and strength bestowed by the heavens. Can be said that even now our dragon race is still one of the strongest races. Perhaps all of you do not understand why I have added one of. That is because there is another race that is even stronger than our dragon race. Du Xin asked curiously, Senior Earth Dragon ancestor, the dragon race is already so powerful. What other race can be more powerful than you? Are you talking about the races in the core world? The Earth Dragon ancestor looked at her in surprise and said, Little girl, it's not bad that you know about the core world. However, you're wrong. The overall power of the core world is indeed more powerful than the dragon race, especially after the Flaming Bar Queen killed the Flame Tyrant and the Dark Flame Devil King. The entire core world was like a metal plate. It can be said that if they came to the surface world, they would be as dangerous as the Dark Five Elements continent. However, the core world is not a single race, but another plane made up of many races. It can be said that they are two parallel lines with the surface world. None of them can compare to the dragon race. Of course, if the Flaming Bar Queen in the core world admits that she is a race, I'll take back my words. Jidong's expression became complicated when he heard the Earth Dragon ancestor mention the Flaming Bar Queen. He felt pain, longing, pride, and all at the same time. The Heavenly Stem holy disciples also looked at him subconsciously. If it's not a race from the core world, then which race is it? Du Xian continued to ask. The Earth Dragon ancestor said, "The answer is very simple. It's you humans." Humans? The Heavenly Stem holy disciples couldn't help but look at each other when they heard the Earth Dragon ancestor's answer. Other than Jidong, the others didn't really understand the Earth Dragon ancestor's words. The Earth Dragon ancestor said, "You must be thinking, how can the insignificant power of humans compare to the dragon race, right? However, I can tell you that if you start a war between the dragon race and the humans, the final victor will definitely be you humans. This is because you humans have a potential that no other race can compare to. Once your potential is stimulated, no other race will be able to resist you. Hence, you humans have become the rulers of the world. Your potential and creativity are the greatest gifts from the heavens. You humans are also the most balanced among all the races in our world." Du Xian said doubtfully, "I still don't understand. Even if we can cultivate to a decent level, humans can't compare to the dragon race in absolute terms." The Earth Dragon ancestor said, "I'll give you an example and you'll understand." Although he was talking to Du Xian, his gaze was always on Ajin, paying attention to the changes in Ajin's expression. Among you humans, generally speaking, the strongest are the Supreme Being experts, in other words, the 9 Crown Demon Masters, right? Of course, a long time ago, you humans also had saints and even gods. Let's not consider these for now. Let's talk about Supreme Being expert. Let me ask you, how much stronger is a Supreme Being expert compared to an ordinary person? The Heavenly Stem holy disciples fell silent. No one could give an answer, because it was impossible to calculate. The Earth Dragon ancestor continued, "In our dragon race, a true giant dragon is at least a Class 6 magical beast when it is born, and the normal endpoint is a Class 10 magical beast. From Class 6 to Class 10, let's not talk about how long it takes to cultivate. Can the difference in strength be compared to the difference between an ordinary person and a Supreme's? In other words, the potential and creativity of you humans have made you the race with the most potential to improve." It was only then that the Heavenly Stem holy disciples understood the meaning of the Earth Dragon ancestor's word. However, this was the first time they had heard such a saying. The Earth Dragon ancestor said, "When our dragon race was born, it appeared according to the 5 elements. However, at that time, there was no distinction between yin and yang. It was a fusion of yin and yang in balance, just like this brat." The brat he was referring to was naturally Jidong. The 5 elements, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, should have been born from chaos. But in reality, that's not the case. Why was the Diamond Dragon able to become the emperor of the dragon race, and always lead the dragon race? You humans have at least a few hundred different guesses, but in reality, the reason why the Diamond Dragon race was able to become the emperor of the dragon race was too simple. It was because the dragon race that was born at that time didn't have 5 corresponding to the 5 elements, but 6. Among them, the Diamond Dragon race with the earth element had 2 dragons. It was precisely because they had one more dragon than the other dragon races that they became the emperor of the dragon race, and from then on, they developed and controlled the entire dragon race. The heavenly stem holy disciples didn't know whether to laugh or cry when they heard that. So it turned out that the diamond dragon race could become the emperor of the dragon race only because there were 2 earth element dragons when the dragon race was born, which was one more than the other dragon races. That was why they became the emperor of the dragon race. Indeed, it couldn't be any simpler. The earth dragon ancestor said calmly, "There were 2 dragons born from the diamond dragon race, and I was the elder brother. I was also the true leader after the birth of the 6 dragons." Astonishment, intense astonishment swept through the hearts of the heavenly stem holy disciples once again. The dragon emperor also stood quietly at the side, the respect in his eyes never diminishing. In reality, ever since he had succeeded as the dragon emperor, he had only really met the earth dragon ancestor a few times. He had never listened to the earth dragon ancestor speak so many times, let alone hear the earth dragon ancestor describe his own life experience. Previously, the heavenly stem holy disciples were still filled with a sense of helplessness. Even Ji Dong was no exception. After all, they already possessed considerable strength, but when they faced the earth dragon ancestor previously, they almost had no power to resist. Even if they fought to the death in the end, there was more than a 90% chance that they would be destroyed by the earth dragon ancestor before them. At this moment, when they heard the earth dragon ancestor talk about his origin, the intense shock had replaced the previous sense of helplessness. What was so embarrassing about losing to the true ancestor of the dragon race, the first leader of the dragon race? In this world, in the history of the Light 5 Elements mainland, how many people could compete with the earth dragon ancestor before them? Perhaps only the first generation of heavenly stem holy disciples, who had many saint-level experts, could do so. At that time, we worked hard together and mated with each other to create the dragon race. There was another reason why I was able to become the leader, and that was because among the 6 dragons, I was the only male, while the other 5 were female. Therefore, in a sense, I was not only the ancestor of the earth dragon race, but also the father of the dragon race. All the dragons have my blood flowing in their veins. Ji Dong said in surprise. The other 5 ancestors of the dragon race were all female. In that case, they and you, the earth dragon ancestor, laughed bitterly and said, "That's right, you've guessed correctly. They can be said to be my wives, and it was also because of them that they gave birth to many descendants of the dragon race, passing on my bloodline, or rather, the bloodline of the dragon race. Speaking of which, it's strange that the children they gave birth to have the same attribute as them. Only the female diamond dragon king of the same race as me gave birth to children with the same attribute as me. For many years, we gradually passed down the dragon race in this way. I was also the first dragon emperor. Not to mention other races, even within the dragon race, no one knows about this. Today, if it wasn't for my daughter, I wouldn't have said it. Dragon Emperor, I hope you won't spread this news. Yes, esteemed ancestor." At this moment, the Dragon Emperor's eyes were also filled with excitement. It turned out that he was also a descendant of the Earth Dragon ancestor. According to the historical records of the dragon race, only the Earth Dragon ancestor was the first generation of the dragon race. Later on, because he had mated with other races, he was severely punished and became what he was now. However, there was no such content as the Earth Dragon ancestor had said. The Dragon Emperor knew that what the Earth Dragon ancestor had said was probably the true situation at that time. Later on, we had more and more children, and the dragon race continued to grow stronger and stronger. Gradually, we became the rulers of the mainland. Any other race seemed so insignificant in front of us, and as the Dragon Emperor, I was the one who controlled everything, the true superior. At this point, everyone could clearly see the pride in the Dragon Emperor's eyes. He indeed had the right to be proud. Not only was he the ancestor of the dragon race, but he was also the ruler of the entire 5 Elements mainland. It was also at that time that you humans gradually began to stand up. However, Humans were still very insignificant at that time and did not have the cultivation ability that we have now. Although there were some powerful ones among them, they were still too weak compared to us. How could the insignificant bodies of humans be in the eyes of the arrogant dragon race? I really underestimated humans at that time. The creativity and development of humans hadn't been fully reflected at that time. Most importantly, I underestimated the wisdom of humans. One day, when I passed by the human world, on a whim, I turned into a human and walked among you humans. It was also at that time that I met my beloved wife, who was also the only wife I acknowledged. Although the other 5 of us ancestral dragons could also be considered as my wives, the relationship between us and them was purely for the sake of reproduction. It was my human wife who made me understand what love was. She made me feel true happiness, a happiness that was even more wonderful than the strengthening of the dragon race. It was also at that time that I gradually fell in love with her. That was also the most wonderful experience in my countless years of life, an experience that I will never be able to forget. At this point, the Earth Dragon ancestor's eyes were filled with gentleness, as if he had recalled all the things that had happened in the past. The way he looked at Aujin also became even gentler. Chapter 439. Compared to humans, the lifespan of the Dragon Clan is really too long. As the first generation of the Dragon Clan, it was even more so for me. My lover's name was Ye Tianji. She was the princess of one of the largest human countries at that time. Hearing the name Ye Tianji, Yun Tianji couldn't help but tremble. His eyes were filled with disbelief. The Earth Dragon ancestor continued, "She was so beautiful. She was the most beautiful human. I was so happy every day when I was with her. With her by my side, we traveled to all the famous mountains and rivers of the continent. We left our mark on almost every inch of land. This lasted for 10 years. She was always by my side, taking care of my daily life gently. During that time, I even forgot that I was a dragon. It was as if I had truly become a human. 10 years is a very long time for you humans, but it's nothing for the Dragon Clan. Although I was the strongest among the 6 great ancestor dragons, I had already reached the peak of the Saint Realm at that time. I always knew that if I continued to cultivate, I would become a god one day, while the 5 of them had only just entered the Saint Realm. In terms of pure strength, even if the 5 of them worked together, they were no match for me. I was the true stabilizing force of the Dragon Clan at that time. However, the power of the 5 elements was not as simple as 1 plus 1. Just like how you were able to use the mutual generation technique to increase your own strength, the 5 of them had the 5 elements. When they joined hands, they finally defeated me and brought me back to the 3 Harmony mountain range. At that time, this place was still called the Dragon Clan Mountain Range. Ye Tianji was also brought back by them. Because he had always been with me, Ye Tianji's cultivation also increased to what you humans call the Supreme Expert level. She was also the only Supreme Expert of the human race at that time. Her demonic power was of the Xian metal element. The 5 ancestor dragons wanted me to sever all ties with Ye Tianji. As long as I was willing to kill her with my own hands, I would still be the emperor of the Dragon Clan. They would still love me and support me in carrying forward the legacy of the Dragon Clan. At that time, Ye Tianji didn't say anything, she just looked at me silently. It was only then that I realized how much I loved her. In fact, those 5 ancestor dragons were very stupid. They didn't need to do that. A human's lifespan was only 100 years. Even I couldn't change that. Even if Ye Tianji's cultivation had risen to the level of a supreme being, he would at most have a lifespan of 200 or 300 years. Compared to the Dragon Clan, that was really a short period of time. They only needed to wait. After Ye Tianji died, I would naturally return to the Dragon Clan. They had never truly loved before, so naturally, they couldn't understand the extent of my love for Ye Tianji. I didn't even hesitate and immediately rejected their proposal. At that time, I thought that even if I had to give up my position as the Dragon Emperor, I would still be with her. They originally wanted to kill Yetianji, but in the end they did not dare to. Because if I fought with my life on the line, even if they managed to kill me in the end with my power, I would be able to destroy most of the Dragon Mountain range. In the end, we came to a compromise. They sealed me here and crippled Yetianji's demonic power, but spared her life, leaving her to fend for herself. At this point, the Earth Dragon ancestor let out a long sigh. The clouds and mist in the sky surged. Everyone's mood also fluctuated violently because of this long sigh. After Ye Tianji left, I also fell into a state of half-madness. Every day I would mate with all kinds of races tirelessly. At that time I was really in agony. I did not know what happened to Ye Tianji in the end, but I still sank into depravity in the Dragon Mountain range. Even when the 5 ancestor dragons died, I did not feel sad at all. Even though Ye Tianji should have died a long time ago, according to the time, I only had her shadow in my heart. When she left, she was already pregnant with my child. Even the other 5 ancestor dragons did not know about this. In just a few hundred years, the human race rapidly grew stronger. It was also at that time that the human race gradually became the ruler of this world. As for us, the dragon race, in order to maintain the suppression of me, we wasted too much of our power and did not have the mood to compete with the human race at all. As for the other 5 ancestor dragons, they died one after another due to the injuries they sustained during the battle with me and the loss of their life energy when they sealed me. As a result, the golden age of the dragon race came to an end, and they gave up their position as the ruler of the continent. A conspiracy, this is a conspiracy, said the Dragon Emperor emotionally. The Earth Dragon ancestor glanced at him and smiled bitterly. Do you think that I don't know that this is a conspiracy? It was also after those hundreds of years that I stopped struggling against the seal, because I was the sinner of the Dragon Clan, the true sinner of the Dragon Clan. Being sealed here was the punishment I deserve. It was also because of my lover, Ye Tianji, that I said that the human race was a more powerful race than the Dragon Clan. Until now, I still can't be sure whether her love for me was real or fake. However, she single-handedly caused the 6 ancestor dragons of the Dragon Clan to fall apart. They were destroyed one after another in a short period of time, and we could no longer lead the Dragon Clan to rule over the entire mainland. She also obtained many cultivation methods from me, and from then on the human race became powerful. However, do you know that? However, do you know? I don't hate her, I have never hated her. Even though she only got close to me for the sake of the human race and never truly loved me, I still don't hate her. Those 10 years were also an experience that I will never forget. At least, I loved once. I am the sinner of the dragon race, and I deserve to be sealed here to endure the ravages of time. However, I never expected that my child with her would still be alive, and this child is you, the daughter of my bloodline. At the end of his sentence, the Earth Dragon ancestor's gaze was fixed on Ajin. 2 huge teardrops rolled down from his big eyes and fell on the ground in front of Ajin, wetting her body. The girls among the heavenly stem holy disciples were already tearing up. Even though everything the Earth Dragon ancestor had done was a devastating disaster for the dragon race, his deep love for Ye Tianji had deeply affected these girls. Even Ji Dong and the rest were moved, especially Ji Dong. He also loved the flaming bar very much, so he could understand the Earth Dragon ancestor's feelings the best. If it were me, I would also be like you and have no regrets, Ji Dong murmured. Jin's face was extremely pale as she looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor. Her body was trembling non-stop. In her mind, countless memory fragments were gradually fusing with the Earth Dragon ancestor's narration. Everything that had happened since ancient times kept appearing in her mind. The light in her eyes was no longer blank. Instead, it kept changing. She was recalling many things. Suddenly, Ajin knelt in front of the Earth Dragon ancestor with a thud as tears streamed down her face. Ji-dong could clearly sense that a door seemed to have opened in Ah-jin's spiritual world. It was a door that belonged to spiritual intelligence. Ah-jin seemed to have become a completely different person at the moment. The coldness on her pretty face had disappeared and was replaced by intense emotions. "Mommy loves you. She loves you." Ah-jin burst into tears as soon as she said this. The Earth Dragon ancestor was stunned. He heard the question that he had been thinking about for thousands of years. It was also the question that had troubled him for his entire life. What did you say?" The Earth Dragon ancestor stared blankly at Ah-jin. He prostrated himself again, and his huge head hung flat in front of Ah-jin. Big drops of tears flowed down his face like a river. Ah-jin choked with sobs as she said, "Mommy loves you. Her love for you will only be deeper than your love for her." "That's right, Mommy had approached you with a goal in mind." Ah-jin choked back sobs as she said, "Mommy loves you. Her love for you will only be deeper than your love for her." "That's right, Mommy had a purpose when I first got close to you. Aside from my metal attribute, Mommy had also learned the ancient divination technique that humans had invented. At that time, the Dragon Clan was really powerful. Who knows how many humans had died at the hands of the Dragon Clan? In the memories of humans, the Dragon Clan was a synonym for demons. In order to save humans and allow them to reproduce, Mommy's teacher had calculated and deduced carefully and found the only opportunity. It was also that opportunity that allowed Mommy to meet you, the ruler of the Dragon Clan and the leader of the 6 great ancestor dragons. In order to defeat the Dragon Clan and allow humans to reproduce smoothly, we had to make the 6 great ancestor dragons suffer. Otherwise, as martial saints, you would have an almost unlimited lifespan and humans would never be able to make a comeback. Mommy did get close to you in order to help humans destroy the Dragon Clan, but Mommy also knew that if I approached you with a purpose, you would definitely discover it with your intelligence. Hence, when Mommy met you, the first thing I did was to forget about my hatred. At that moment, Ah-jin was no longer as cold as before. She was like a little girl who had been greatly wronged, sobbing as she expressed the sorrow in her heart. Only by forgetting about the hatred between humans and the Dragon Clan could Mommy truly get close to you. She opened her heart to love you without reservation. Father, with your invincible power and intelligence at that time, if Mommy hadn't truly fallen in love with you, how could you have fallen in love with her? The 10 years you spent together were the deepest memories of your life, but did you know that those 10 years were the only glorious 10 years of Mommy's life? Actually, Mommy didn't do anything when she was with you. She only loved you with all her heart. At most, she learned the various abilities you taught her and silently recorded these cultivation methods. That was all. Everything that happened after that was caused by the 6 ancestral dragons. This was also deduced by Mommy's teacher. You were sealed, the other 5 ancestral dragons were heavily injured, and Mommy's mana was crippled. After returning to the human world, Mommy spent a year sorting out the cultivation methods you taught her and handed them to her teacher. After she gave birth to me, she left a letter for me. Then, she left. I heard from Grandmaster that before Mommy died, she kept muttering your name. Her greatest wish was to be able to see you again at that time. However, she couldn't because she knew that everything you endured was because of her. When Mommy died, the pain she endured was unimaginable. At this point, Ah-jin was already sobbing uncontrollably. The Earth Dragon ancestor's gigantic body was trembling non-stop as he murmured, "She loves me, she loves me, she really loves me." Why? Heavens, why are you torturing me like this? Is it just because I've obtained great power? 1 year, only 1 year, and she has already left me. What am I waiting for? Chen Sichuan was beside Ah-jin. She hugged him gently and comforted him. Ah-jin's crying gradually subsided. He said, Mommy's teacher was the ancestor of ancient divination. He left a record of this branch of divination and placed it together with the cultivation methods Mommy left behind. This inheritance was named after Mommy, the heavenly secret. Yes, I am the inheritor of the heavenly secret. Many years after Senior Yetianji passed away, the first heavenly secrets obtained that inheritance and founded the heavenly stem saints. With the help of the heavenly secrets, the heavenly stem saints came into being. Even though there are also dark heavenly secrets and dark saints in the five elements dark continent, it is certain that their appearance and inheritance are completely different from ours. The one who spoke was Yun Tianji. He had already guessed many things when he heard the name Yetianji. Back then, when the previous heavenly secrets had passed on to him, he had told him this story about Yetianji. It could be said that the lover of the Earth Dragon ancestor, Yetianji, was a descendant of the heavenly secrets lineage, or even the ancestor of the heavenly stem saints. Child, tell me, what did your mother say in the letter she left you? The Earth Dragon ancestor asked with a trembling voice. Ajin murmured, there were only a few sentences in the letter she left me. She said that the greatest happiness in her life was meeting you, and the greatest sorrow was also meeting you. She told me to work hard on my cultivation. After I break through the supremacy realm, I will go to the bottom of the East Sea to search for the 10th grade demonic weapon, the Frenzy Blade Fish. I will obtain its blood and help you break the seal. Even if this causes you to take revenge on humans, she will not regret it. If I can do all this and save you, I will tell you that she does not ask for your forgiveness, but she will always love you. Chapter 440. Boom, a wondrous energy immediately exploded. It was not magic but pure strength of the soul. The heavenly stem saints only felt their pores completely open at that moment. The Earth Dragon ancestor's colossal body suddenly reared up and he opened his mouth at the sky as if he was roaring furiously, but he did not make any sound at all. His body constantly trembled and swayed, and the mountain beneath everyone's feet constantly shook as a result. They needed to circulate their magic to forcefully stand. Ji Dong stared at the Earth Dragon ancestor silently. After hearing Ah Jin's words, the Earth Dragon ancestor's soul seemed to explode. Out of everyone present, his and the Dragon Emperor's souls were the closest to the Earth Dragon ancestor's level, so they could sense that the Earth Dragon ancestor was currently experiencing a strange ripple of emotions. It was a mixture of extreme excitement and extreme sorrow. Ji Dong was unable to determine the excitement, but he could sense the sorrow. It was just like how he had felt when his hair turned white after Flaming Bar's death. It was obvious just how intense the Earth Dragon ancestor's soul rippled right now. Ajin looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor and clenched her fists tightly. Her emotions were also extremely intense. Fortunately, Chen Sichuan was by her side, using her chaotic force and strength of the soul to help her stabilize her emotions. Mother left this letter with the Grandmaster so that he could pass it on to me after I became a sovereign. However, the Grandmaster did not live that long. Only when he was about to pass away did he tell me everything that Mother had experienced back then, as well as give me this letter. Back then, my cultivation was nowhere near the level of a sovereign, but after learning what Mother and you had gone through, how could I hold back? As a result, I went to the East Sea, and I finally found the whereabouts of the Class 10 demonic blade fish. However, it was just too powerful. I lost my final memories in a wave of cold. The truth had come to light. The place where Ajin had searched for the demonic blade fish was also where the first generation of heavenly stem saints had created the evil island. Coincidentally, Ji Dong had saved Ajin from the ice and revived her at Flaming Bar. That was how Ajin and Ji Dong had ended up together. It could be said that Ajin was not a pure human. She was half dragon, half human, and her attributes had been inherited from her mother. Let alone the heavenly stem saints, even the Dragon Emperor was stunned. As the Dragon Emperor, he should have hated the Earth Dragon ancestor. It was precisely because of the love between the Earth Dragon ancestor and Yetianji that the Dragon clan had lost their dominant position on the path of light. However, how could he hate? The Earth Dragon ancestor was his true ancestor. It could be said that without the Earth Dragon ancestor, there would be no Earth Dragon ancestor, and there would be no dragon clan. The trembling of the Earth Dragon ancestor's body gradually stopped. Its huge body seemed to have returned to normal. When it lowered its head again, everyone was shocked to see that its originally yellow eyes had turned into a terrifying blood-red color. Its voice became hoarse as it said, "I need some quiet time to think. My child, are you willing to stay and accompany me?" Ajin nodded gently. She looked at the huge father in front of her with teary eyes and said, "I will definitely find the Class 10 demonic blade fish again and help you break the seal." The Earth Dragon ancestor Griffin shook his head silently. "There's no need for that. All of this no longer holds any meaning to me. The moment your mother passed away, it no longer held any meaning. I just want to look at you more. When I look at you, it's like I'm seeing your mother, the Dragon Emperor." "Great Ancestor, I am here," the Dragon Emperor said respectfully. The Earth Dragon ancestor said quietly, "You already know about me. I hope you can keep this a secret. I don't want the past to be spread among the Dragon Clan." "Yes, Great Ancestor. As you wish." The Dragon Emperor nodded solemnly at the Earth Dragon ancestor. The ancestor of the Earth Dragon said, "These young humans can be said to be the descendants of Yatianji, and one of them is even my daughter. I hope that you can allow them to choose partners from the Dragon Clan. The sacred war between the Darkness 5 Elements mainland and our mainland is about to begin. No matter who the ruler of the mainland is, this is our home after all. Helping them is the same as helping ourselves. As long as a dragon is chosen by them, I will grant them a chaos seed." The Dragon Emperor nodded silently and said, "The Heavenly Stem Saints have been working with our Dragon Clan for thousands of years, but we didn't know that they were Yi Tianji's descendants. Of course, this cooperation will continue." "Is your daughter?" The Earth Dragon ancestor shook his head. His eyes were filled with pride. "My daughter has my blood flowing in her. Why would she need a magical beast as a partner? It's enough as long as I help her awaken her bloodline. Bring the young ones with you. I want to spend some time alone with my daughter." "Yes, Great Ancestor," the Dragon Emperor replied respectfully. With a shake of his body, he returned to his original form and spread his wings. After Hyoheim and the others nodded, a gentle force was released from his body. It swept up Ji Dong and the others and brought them onto his back. Ji Dong looked at Ajin worriedly. Ajin also looked at him subconsciously. Even though she had recovered some of her past memories, the memories after her resurrection were actually even more profound. In her past memories, apart from matters regarding her parents, there was only boring cultivation. The memories after her resurrection were even more exciting to her. Ajin looked at Ji Dong and Chen Sichuan with a complicated look in his eyes. He nodded at them as if to reassure them. The Dragon Emperor took a deep look at the Earth Dragon ancestor, and a hint of sorrow appeared in his eyes. Only then did he soar into the sky. He did not do anything, but his huge body had already flown into the sky and flew towards the depths of the Three Unity mountain range. "Senior Dragon Emperor, may I ask you a question?" asked Ji Dong. The Dragon Emperor said indifferently, "Ask away." His voice was very cold. It was obvious that he was not friendly towards the Heavenly Stem Saints. Only Ji Dong himself understood why he was like this. Hence, he did not care about the Dragon Emperor's attitude. "Senior Dragon Emperor, I would like to know how Senior Griffin was sealed." The Dragon Sovereign said indifferently, "Back then, the Great Ancestor was collectively sealed by the other 5 progenitor dragons, causing his body to fuse with the Three Unity mountain range, causing him to lose the progenitor dragon's ability to transform and fly. When you met him, did you ever see him move his legs? His hind limbs and legs had already merged with the mountain. Nothing that happened in the Three Harmony mountain range could be hidden from him. Actually, there's one thing that the Great Ancestor said wrong. The other 5 ancestor dragons had feelings for him. Otherwise, they could have used some special methods to kill Griffin without him being able to resist. However, That's all in the past now. I don't want to say anything more. Young man, your arrival has caused a huge change in the Dragon Clan. Do you know what we're going to lose? Ji-dong said, I know. Wasn't Senior Griffin leaving behind some funeral arrangements? His lover is dead, and the questions that he had guessed for many years have finally been answered. He no longer had anything to live for. He only wanted to spend some time with his daughter, so he sacrificed himself to follow Senior Ye Tianji. Am I right? The other heavenly stem saints were shocked after hearing Ji-dong's word. Chen Sichuan could not help but ask, Teacher Ji-dong, that can't be true, right? If that's the case, why didn't you remind Jin just now? She's already lost her mother. She won't be able to bear losing her father as well. The Dragon Emperor was also puzzled. He asked, How did you guess that? Ji-dong said, I'm afraid that no one understands Senior Griffin's feelings better than me. That's because I have the same experience as him. My lover has also left me. To me, what I desire the most now is to fulfill her wish and follow her. Therefore, of course I understand Senior Griffin's feelings. I can also feel the deathly stillness in his soul. I believe Senior Dragon Emperor has also noticed this, which is why you said those words just now. As for why I didn't tell Jin, the reason is very simple. It's because I have a way to make Senior Griffin not die. Moreover, I've already told Jin through spiritual communication. If it's not to make Senior Dragon Emperor not die, why would I ask you how to remove the old man's seal? The expression in the Dragon Emperor's eyes changed greatly after hearing Ji-dong's words. Even with his status, he still asked anxiously, Is what you said true? Do you really have a way to make Ancestor Griffin not die? If you can do it, the Dragon Clan will definitely thank you generously. To the Dragon Clan, the ancestor of the Earth Dragon, Griffin, was not only their ancestor, but also the stabilizing force of the entire Three-Unity mountain range. With the existence of the number one powerhouse of the Dragon Clan, the Three-Unity mountain range could be said to be unshakable. Unless the 5 sacred beasts on the demonic island were all present, who else could contend against the ancestor of the Earth Dragon? Furthermore, the existence of the ancestor of the Earth Dragon, Griffin, was even more important to the Dragon Clan. Especially after the Dragon Emperor found out about its identity as the ancestor of the dragon, how could he be willing to let the ancestor of the Earth Dragon die just like that? However, he could not go against the will of the ancestor of the Earth Dragon, nor could he stop it. Now that he heard Ji-dong say that he had a way to make the ancestor of the Earth Dragon live, it was as if he had grabbed hold of a life-saving straw. Ji-dong nodded seriously and said, Senior Griffin is the same as me. I have nothing to live for. Apart from the last wish of my dead wife, I have no other attachment. However, Senior Griffin still has the fruit of his love with Senior Ye Tianji. Actually, I only taught Jin one thing. It's very simple. I asked her to tell Senior Griffin. The ancestor of the Earth Dragon, Griffin, looked at Jin in front of him kindly and said, Child, you really miss your mother. However, your mother is even more beautiful than you are. Perhaps it's because of my inheritance that your appearance is slightly inferior to hers. I'm really too happy today. To be able to see you and hear you tell me that your mother loves me is my greatest happiness. There's nothing more satisfying than this. Child, come, let me awaken the part of the dragon bloodline that belongs to you. You possess the bloodline of the ancestor of the dragon that I had before I was sealed. Once you awaken it, you will possess the power that belongs to me. Jin shook her head silently when she heard the words of the ancestor of the Earth Dragon. There's no need, father. Even though this was the first time she had seen her father, she did not feel any hatred towards him. Although the union between the ancestor of the Earth Dragon, Griffin, was a mistake, they were not in the wrong. Hence, she naturally called him father. An intense emotion flashed through Griffin's red eyes. Her body could not help but tremble when she heard him call her father. Why? Don't you want to obtain great power? Ajin said calmly. What's the use of obtaining great power? It's not like I can take my power with me after I die. What did you say? Griffin was shocked. You're saying that you're going to die? No, that can't be. Your body is very healthy. How can you die? Ajin looked at Griffin, but Ji Dong's face appeared in her mind. She said what Ji Dong wanted her to say. I no longer have a mother. If I don't have a father as well, what's the point of living? Since you're going to follow me, then I'll let you follow me. Our family will be reunited in another world. That's right. This was what Ji Dong had taught Ajin. He had a very accurate grasp of the ancestor of the Earth Dragon, Griffin. After experiencing great joy and great sorrow, this ancestor of the Dragon clan, who had once been the leader of the ancestral dragons, had indeed lost all desire for life. However, after seeing his daughter, he loved her even more from the bottom of his heart. He wanted to help his daughter become stronger as much as possible so that he could follow his lover, Yetianji, in peace. Ji Dong's guess was not wrong at all. He had asked Ajin to say these words to turn Griffin's obsession with love into familial love. He still had a daughter, and for the sake of his daughter, he could only choose to live. Silly child, you. Griffin stared blankly at Ajin and could not speak for a long time. He saw determination in Ajin's eyes. He knew that if he really died, then his daughter would definitely follow him. How could he be willing to see this? Ajin's voice choked again. From Griffin's eyes, she knew that Ji Dong's guess was correct. If she let nature take its course and accepted the awakening of her Dragon clan bloodline for her, then she would probably really lose her father. Father, I already have no mother. Do you really want me to have no father as well? Chapter 441. Ajin stared stubbornly at the Earth Dragon ancestor, Griffin. She sobbed and said, Father, I no longer have a mother. Do you really want me to be without a father? You are my only family in this world. If you die, I will be an orphan. Are you really willing to let me become an orphan without a father or mother? I've finally reunited with you after so many hardships and thousands of years. Can't you share some of the love you have for your mother with me? I won't let you die. As she spoke, she started crying again. She charged forward and hugged a huge scale of the Earth Dragon ancestor. She refused to let go no matter what. Griffin's determination to die gradually melted in Ajin's tears. Yes, thousands of years had passed. He had lost his lover, but he had regained his daughter now. For his daughter, he had to continue living and be with his daughter. All right. I won't die. My good daughter, don't cry. You're right. Although I don't have your mother, I still have you. For you, I can't die. An enormous dragon claw silently reached out and lifted Ajin's body in front of him. Ajin could clearly see that the blood red in her father's enormous eyes was gradually fading. Her heart finally relaxed slightly because of this. She said determinedly, Father, I will definitely find that MO weapon Frenzy Blade Fish and help you remove the seal. Griffin shook his head gently and said, Child, you don't have to go because it's useless to me. If I could find the blood of a Class 10 Mad Blade Fish during the first 1,000 years of being sealed, it could help me remove the seal. However, thousands of years have passed now. The reason I'm still alive is because my life and soul have fused with the three united mountain range. Putting aside the fact that the blood of the Mad Blade Fish is useless to me, even if it was useful, once my body leaves the three united mountain range, I will die immediately. Ajin stared blankly at Griffin and said, Why is it like this? Is there no other way? Griffin smiled slightly and said, There is no other way, but I can continue living to be with you. However, you have to promise me one thing. Let me awaken the dragon bloodline for you. Only then will you have some ability to protect yourself. You are part of the Heavenly Stem Holy Disciple, so you will definitely participate in the holy war between light and darkness. Only with great power can you protect yourself. Your magical beast companion will be your dragon soul. Ajin nodded and said, As long as you promise me to continue living, I can promise you anything. Griffin said, "It will take some time to awaken your bloodline. Dad will do his best to help you. Don't worry, I will let the Dragon Emperor inform your friends. You will have to temporarily separate from them. Stay here and cultivate with Dad. It will take at least a few months, at most a year. Once you awaken your dragon bloodline, you will naturally be able to reunite with them." The Dragon Emperor was in a great mood after hearing Ji Dong's explanation. He let out a long sigh and said, "As long as our great ancestor doesn't die, it will be a blessing for the Dragon Clan. My human friends, thank you. I know why you have come this time, and I will help you choose a suitable companion. Of course, the prerequisite is that my clansmen must be willing. Whether you can obtain their acknowledgement will depend on your own ability." The Heavenly Stem holy disciples smiled after hearing the Dragon Emperor's words. They did not encounter too much trouble after entering the Three Harmony mountain range this time, except for the Earth Dragon ancestor. Now, not only had they completely solved the problem, they had also obtained the Dragon Emperor's acknowledgement. The great pressure that the Earth Dragon ancestor had brought them was both a motivation to stimulate their cultivation and a source to squeeze out their potential. Ji Dong did not even need to take out the token that the Fire Dragon King had given him, but they were still able to successfully enter the Dragon Valley to choose their magical beast companion. It could be said that this trip to the Dragon Valley was extremely successful. The feeling of flying in the sky and walking on the Three Harmony mountain range was completely different. Standing on the back of the Dragon Emperor, everyone could see a boundless, undulating greenery. The entire mountain range was almost completely covered in plants. Many of the plants had been growing for thousands of years, and some of the taller trees were even over 100 meters tall. It would take more than 10 people to surround them. Not long after flying forward, an extremely tall mountain appeared in front of them. Apart from the greenery, the upper half of the mountain was completely white. It was surrounded by clouds and mist, and the snow-capped peak was sparkling under the sunlight. It looked rather spectacular. The Dragon Emperor's flying speed suddenly increased, and he arrived in front of the snow-capped mountain in the blink of an eye. He instantly accelerated and arrived at the top of the snow-capped mountain in just a few breaths' time. The moment the Dragon Emperor flew over the snow-capped mountain, the Heavenly Stem holy disciples exclaimed almost at the same time. Everyone looked shocked. Everything that they saw at this moment was too shocking and magical. This was a strange scene that could not be repeated anywhere else on the continent. In front of them was a huge valley. The deepest part of the valley was probably more than 3,000 meters away from the peak they had just climbed. One must know that this valley was at the core of the Mountain River mountain range. In such a place there was actually such a deep valley. How miraculous was the process of its formation! What was even more shocking was that on the other side of the snow-capped mountain, there was a patch of greenery in the massive valley. Yes, it was greenery, an extremely spectacular greenery. The greenery seemed to extend from the top of the mountain all the way to the bottom of the valley. As soon as they crossed the snow-capped mountain, the temperature in the air immediately rose. The air that was initially only filled with water element was filled with the yin and yang elements of wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. The density was at least 5 times that of the outside world. For a wizard master, cultivating in such an environment would definitely yield twice the result with half the effort. This was not the most shocking thing. The most shocking thing was that it was a magnificent scene of thousands of dragons dancing in the valley. At least 1,000 huge dragons of various colors and attributes were flying in the valley. When Dragon Emperor flew over the valley and appeared above the valley, those huge dragons almost stopped in the sky at the same time. They raised their huge heads and roared towards the sky. The ear-splitting roars reverberated across the sky at once, accompanied by a terrifying sound wave. The power of the sound wave could definitely be compared with a super kill skill. A layer of slightly distorted transparent light appeared on the Dragon Emperor's body and enveloped the heavenly stem holy disciples, isolating the power of the sound wave. Otherwise, they might have to use the 5 elements yin-yang world to resist it again. At this moment, the crown-shaped bulge on the Dragon Emperor's head emitted a bright golden light, and the majesty that far exceeded that of a human emperor spread out evenly and calmed the emotions of the dragons. Those who roared at this moment were real dragons who possessed the purest dragon bloodline. Only they were qualified to live in the Dragon Valley. Even Griffin, the ancestor of the Earth Dragon, could no longer stay in the Dragon Valley after losing his ability as a dragon. This showed how pure the bloodline of the dragons here was. There were thousands of dragons, and their average cultivation base was probably above rank 9. Such a force would be absolutely terrifying anywhere. If they really appeared outside and were led by a saint-leveled powerhouse like the Dragon Emperor, they would definitely be a force that could sweep across the entire continent. Ji Dong was well aware of the reason why the dragon tribe could no longer control the continent. It was not only because of the death of the 6 ancestral dragons, but also because of the reproduction ability of the dragon tribe. It was true that dragons would at least have the strength of rank 6 or rank 7 when they were born, but the incubation time of the dragon tribe was really too long. If the dragon tribe incubated on their own, it would take at least 3,000 years to hatch a descendant. If not for such a long period of time, how could the dragon egg of the Fire Dragon King be stolen? The reason why the dragon tribe was willing to reach a certain agreement with the humans was to allow their people to have a better life. With the help of the human contract, the incubation time of the dragon tribe could be shortened to 3,000 years. In other words, after the dragon egg was born, it could complete the incubation process with the help of the human contract. Although the scene of 1,000 dragons dancing together was spectacular, Ji Dong understood that this was also the tragedy of the dragon tribe. Although the dragon tribe was powerful, the strength of the human race was definitely not to be underestimated. A batch of human powerhouses died, and a new batch could be born in a few decades. But what about the dragon tribe? The death of 1,000 dragons meant that there would be one fewer. In terms of reproduction ability, the dragon tribe was really far behind the human race. For the sake of the race's inheritance, they had no choice but to stay in the Dragon Valley. Only a small number of dragons would sign a contract with the human race in the outside world. The 1,000 dragons in front of them were all the dragon tribe had. A deep dragon roar came from the mouth of the Dragon Emperor. The dragons immediately quieted down and flew towards the mountain walls around the valley. If one looked closely, one would find that there were many caves on the mountain walls around the valley. Every dragon would live in the same cave with their parents before they reached adulthood. Only after they reached adulthood could they have their own cave. The higher the cave, the bigger the cave entrance, and the larger the size of the dragons that entered it. Obviously, the ranking of the dragons' residents in the Dragon Valley was based on their strength and authority. This was quite scientific. There was only one entrance to the Dragon Valley, and that was the sky. The most powerful dragons were in the sky. Once an enemy attacked, they would naturally appear to defend and protect the relatively weaker clansmen. Of course, the possibility of this happening was infinitely close to zero. Even if Dark Tianji could really lead the Dark Heavenly Stem Saints and the 5 Elements Dark Continent to attack the 5 Elements Light Continent, he would have to consider whether he would dare to launch an attack in the Dragon Valley. After all, there were 2 saint-level powerhouses here. Most of the dragons had already dispersed after the Dragon Emperor's roar, but there were still 4 dragons floating in the sky. They were larger than the dragons that had dispersed earlier, and they were only second to the Dragon Emperor. Among the 4 dragons, Ji Dong recognized one of them. It was the magical beast companion of his grandmaster, Yin Zhaoyang, and the Fire Dragon King who had given him the scale as a token. Aside from the Fire Dragon King, the other 3 giant dragons were the snowy white Golden Dragon King, the nearly transparent Diamond Dragon King, and the Water Dragon King, which was completely smaller than the Dragon Emperor and didn't have a crown. As for the yin and yang attribute, it depended on what attribute they had when they became the Dragon King. It was not necessary to have the yang attribute or the yin attribute to become the Dragon King. In the past, it depended on one's own strength. The Dragon tribe had a total of 5 major attributes. The Dragon Kings of each tribe were different from the Dragon Emperors. The Dragon Emperors were inherited through bloodline. There was only one Dragon Emperor in each tribe, who was the descendant of the previous Dragon Emperor and the female dragon of the Diamond Dragon tribe. However, the Dragon Kings of each tribe were selected by the tribe themselves. They competed with each other based on strength. The Dragon King was the strongest. Even the Dragon Emperor had no right to speak on the selection of the Dragon King. It was the business of each tribe. Except for the Dragon King, the other 4 Dragon Kings were all here. The Fire Dragon King saw Ji-dong, who was standing on the back of the Dragon Emperor, at a glance. He couldn't help but reveal an extremely surprised look in his eyes. He was even a little stunned for a moment. The Diamond Dragon King said in a gentle voice, "Your Majesty, I wonder what happened that caused the great Earth Dragon ancestor to feel uneasy, causing the entire tribe to be shocked?" The Dragon Monarch said, "The matter has calmed down. It was these young humans who brought the great Earth Dragon ancestor's daughter, and that caused his emotions to fluctuate." After knowing the past of the Earth Dragon ancestor, the Dragon Monarch was even more respectful towards his ancestor. The 4 Dragon Kings heaved a sigh of relief. The Water Dragon King said in a gentle voice, "It's good that nothing happened. If something happened to him, it would be big trouble. It concerns the fate of our entire tribe. What's going on with these young people? How can your Majesty receive them personally?" The Dragon Emperor said, "This is the suggestion of the Earth Dragon ancestor. I have to carry it out." At this moment, the Fire Dragon King finally came back to his senses. He said, "It doesn't matter if it's other humans, but it's natural for your Majesty to receive this white-haired young man personally. Originally, I should be the one to receive him." The Dragon Emperor was stunned. The other 3 Dragon Kings looked at the Fire Dragon King in surprise. They couldn't understand why the Fire Dragon King would say such a thing. Chapter 442. The Fire Dragon King's words shocked the Dragon Emperor and the other 3 Dragon Kings. After all, even though the Dragon Kings had a close relationship with the Dragon Emperor, it was still an act of disrespect for the Dragon Clan to say something like that. The Dragon Emperor held a supreme position in the Dragon Clan. Even the Earth Dragon ancestor, who was the leader of the progenitor dragons, had to bow respectfully when he saw the Dragon Emperor. "Senior Fire Dragon King, we meet again." Ji-dong stood on the Dragon Emperor's back and bowed slightly to the Fire Dragon King. The Fire Dragon King nodded at him with unconcealable excitement in its eyes. "That's great, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you. Chaoyang has told me about you. Ji-dong, where's my child? Where's my child?" "Child?" The Dragon Sovereign's body trembled when he heard that name. "Vanessa, you're saying that he's the young man called Ji-dong, who's also our child's contract partner?" The Fire Dragon King nodded excitedly. "Yes, it's him. If it wasn't for him and the Flaming Bar Queen, I'm afraid our child would have been humiliated by that traitor, Feng Shuang. He saved our child and gave it a future." The other 3 Dragon Kings finally understood. Ji-dong was shocked. He only knew that Maotai and Wuliangye were the children of the Fire Dragon King. He only understood now that their father was the Dragon Emperor in front of him. The news was too shocking. "All of you, come to Rong's cave abode." The Dragon Emperor suppressed his excitement. He flapped his wings and flew straight to the largest cave at the top of the valley. Not only was this cave the largest in the Dragon Valley, it was also the most authoritative. It was very obvious on the mountain wall. The entrance of the cave was 100 meters in diameter. It was extremely huge. It was easy for the Dragon Emperor to fly in with his huge body. The 4 dragon kings followed behind the dragon emperor and flew into his cave abode. The inside of the cave was even wider. The 5 dragons led by the dragon emperor did not feel crowded at all. Of course, they were flying in front of each other instead of side by side. The dragon emperor's cave abode could be described as luxurious. Although there were no decorations like humans, the cave abode was dazzling. The walls of the cave were embedded with all sorts of gold coins, gems, and rare materials that were essential for crafting magical weapons. Any one of these items would be priceless in the outside world. However, they seemed to be pressed against the walls by some force. The cave was 100 meters in diameter. The walls were huge, but they were covered with glittering items. Ji Dong even wondered if Zhou Xiaoxiao's guild or the dragon clan was wealthier. It was really hard to compare. The cave was very deep. The dragon emperor flew for a few breaths before slowly descending into the deepest part of the cave. It was a spherical world with a perfectly round center. It was even wider than the tunnel. Compared to the golden tunnel, the light here was much dimmer. There were only 2 kinds of things embedded in the walls. One was a luminous pearl that provided light, and the other was a diamond that was the same color as the dragon emperor's body. After the heavenly stem saints entered the cave abode, they all felt dizzy. When the dragon emperor landed on the ground and put them down from his back, everyone looked at each other speechlessly, especially the girls. Even Chen Xishuan could not help but show a trace of admiration in her eyes. Du Xian, Lan Bauer, and Miao Miao were even more stunned. It was said that women and dragons had the same hobbies, and it seemed that it was true. The dragon emperor put everyone down and ignored the 4 great dragon kings. A strong halo was released from his body, and his body shrank along with the light. In the blink of an eye, he had returned to his human form. He took a step and arrived in front of Ji Dong. At this moment, he could deeply feel the emotions of the Earth Dragon ancestor, because he was even more agitated than the Earth Dragon ancestor. After all, the Earth Dragon ancestor had thousands of years to settle down, and his emotions were no longer as impulsive as before. However, as the current Dragon Emperor, the dragon egg that he had given birth to with the Fire Dragon King had been stolen was one of the most painful things in his life. Little brother Ji Dong, where are my children? Where are they? In terms of how he addressed Ji Dong, the Dragon Emperor had already changed from a young human to a little brother. He could no longer care about his manners as the Dragon Emperor. Before Ji Dong could open his mouth to ask for it, Chen Xishuan had already handed the core of life to him. Ji Dong looked at Chen Xishuan, and he had a very strange feeling in his heart. Even though he had been using various methods to resist the emotional attacks of Chen Xishuan, he realized that the longer he was with her, the stronger the comfortable feeling became. Especially when they had such a tacit understanding, even if he and Chen Xishuan had not merged their souls, Chen Xishuan seemed to be able to see through his thoughts. Whenever he wanted to do something, she would always be able to help him at the first moment. This kind of silent nourishment was actually the most effective for Ji Dong. If Chen Xishuan had attacked Ji Dong passionately like the Yang attribute, it would have been very easy for Ji Dong to reject it. However, the infiltration and corrosion of her Yin attribute had slowly seeped into Ji Dong's heart. This was what Ji Dong was most afraid of, but he did not know what to do to make this feeling disappear. She did not pester him, nor did she say anything. She merely followed him silently, just like the other heavenly stem saint. What else could he do? Now, Ji Dong was more and more regretful about introducing Chen Xishuan to the heavenly stem saint. After receiving the core of life, Ji Dong could not help but feel a little emotional when he felt the residual warmth of Chen Xishuan's body. He injected his soul power into it and called out to his partner. A black and white light swept out with an extremely unique dragon's might. 2 clear dragon roars sounded almost at the same time. In the next moment, the aura of the ultimate dual flames had already gushed out. Black and white became the main colors of the Dragon Emperor's cave. It had been many years since a dragon had dared to release its dragon's might or even demonic energy in the Dragon Emperor's cave. However, at this moment, the Dragon Emperor could only feel excitement and anticipation in the face of the aura of the ultimate dual flames. It was the same for the Fire Dragon King. Even the eyes of the other 3 Dragon Kings were filled with benevolence and warmth. The bodies of Maotai and Wuliangye were already huge, but in front of the 4 Dragon Kings and the Dragon Emperor, their bodies were nothing. As soon as they appeared, they were immediately shocked by the diamonds and luminous pearls around them. The dragon tribe loved glowing objects, and this had a long history. Even if Maotai and Wuliangye were mutated existences, it was no exception. The 2 big heads kept looking at the glowing treasures around them, and they swallowed their saliva a little. "This is our child?" the Dragon Emperor said excitedly. He looked at the Fire Dragon King, and the Fire Dragon King also looked at him. When their gazes met, the Dragon Emperor's aura suddenly erupted and swept towards the sacred evolution Fire Dragon in the air. At this moment, Ji Dong completely understood why the aura of Maotai and Wuliangye could make those earth dragons and even ordinary dragons submit to them. Although it had inherited its mother's fire attribute and had been helped, modified, and mutated by Ji Dong and the Flaming Bar, its dragon's might came from its father, the Emperor of the Dragon Tribe in front of it. How could an ordinary dragon resist the aura of the Dragon Emperor? The huge aura of the Dragon Emperor swept up, and immediately attracted the Maotai and Wuliangye's interest in glowing objects. They roared at almost the same time, and the white light on Maotai and the black light on Wuliangye burst forth. The yin-yang fire formation was formed immediately. Even Ji Dong couldn't compare to them in terms of the speed of releasing the 5 elements formation. The black and white light condensed in the air without dispersing, and converged into a Tai Chi shape. The mana waves of the ultimate dual fire completely mixed instantly spread out, and forcefully dispelled the mana of other attributes in the air. It was the sacred evolution Fire Dragon's Tai Chi demonic domain. However, in the next moment, their gazes turned solemn, because they realized that the Tai Chi demonic domain could not spread out and dispel the mana of other attributes in the surroundings. The aura that was suppressing them was so strong that it made it difficult for them to even breathe. This was the first time the sacred evolution Fire Dragons had encountered such a situation since they evolved to the 9th tier. Instantly they exploded. Both pairs of dragon eyes lit up at almost the same time. Their bodies shook violently, and their black and white bodies lashed out agilely in the air like whips. Although Maotai and Wuliangye weren't as huge as Dragon Kings, they were still over 15 m long. Dragons also had skeletons. Even the Dragon Emperor couldn't control their bodies so dexterously in the air and accomplish such a movement in a split second like Maotai and Wuliangye. A strange scene appeared. With a loud bang, there was a strong explosion in the air. Among the heavenly stem saints, only Ji Dong, who was connected to the souls of Maotai and Wuliangye, could sense that the aura that the Dragon Emperor had sealed off was forcefully cracked open by the full force of Maotai and Wuliangye. In the next moment, the bodies of Maotai and Wuliangye instantly became illusory. As the light flickered, the Dragon Kings could barely see their flight path. However, that speed was not something that could be explained by flying. Of course, they didn't know that this was one of the sacred evolution Fire Dragon's innate skills, transmigration. They broke through the Dragon Emperor's seal just like that and appeared behind him. 2 furious dragon roars were heard as they broke free from the seal, and a strong murderous aura and dragon might erupted instantly. The Tai Chi demonic domain did not disperse after breaking free from the seal. Instead, it condensed into a black and white ball of light with a diameter of 20 meters around their bodies. Everyone could feel that extremely terrifying power was condensing in their bodies. Golden light condensed at the center of the horns on Maotai's head and turned into the shape of a cone, while the horns of Wuliangye were cold and dark. F***CK, it's the brilliant sun cone and the ice of flames. Fury couldn't help but let out a low roar. He was too familiar with Ji-dong's skills, so he immediately reacted the moment Mao Tai and Wuliangye released their demonic powers. The heavenly stem saints looked at Ji-dong as though they were looking at a monster. They were not surprised by the sacred evolution fire dragon's power. Even if it broke through the suppression of the Dragon Emperor's aura, it wouldn't have shocked them so much. What they were shocked by was the sacred evolution fire dragon's learning ability. Be it them or the 5 top powerhouses of the Dragon Clan, they had never heard of a magical beast being able to learn the skills of its human companion. However, wasn't the technique that the sacred evolution fire dragon was currently using from Ji-dong's 2 sovereigns? The Dragon Emperor's eyes lit up. He raised his right hand and a yellow luster was released from his hand. It was obviously earth element mana, but it didn't emit any elemental aura. In fact, one couldn't even sense how strong the mana wave was. Roar! Mao Tai and Wuliangye roared at the same time. The dazzling golden brilliant sun cone and the dark black transparent ice of flames flew out at the same time. What was even more strange was that when these 2 ultimate skills flew out, they didn't go straight for the Dragon Emperor. Instead, they fused directly between the 2 dragon heads of Mao Tai and Wuliangye. Instantly, the Tai Chi demonic domain that was protecting their bodies brightened. The black and white ball of light seemed to be instantly sucked dry, and a black and white light beam was shot out instantly. This time, even Ji-dong himself was shocked. He knew that Mao Tai and Wuliangye could use a portion of his skills, but this was not as simple as just using his skills. They had clearly modified their skills according to their own bodies and abilities. The brilliant sun cone and Yu-Yen ice condensed in the air. The combination of the 2 flames of yin and yang should have unleashed an omnidirectional ultimate skill, the world of Lunisolar. However, the world of Lunisolar from the sacred evolution fire dragon had changed from an omnidirectional attack to a straight-line attack. Without a doubt, the attack would be even more powerful like that. It was directly equivalent to a single target attack, and it had been condensed in such a short amount of time. It was evident just how powerful the sacred evolution fire dragon was. From lashing out, passing through, and finally unleashing the modified world of Lunisolar, the entire process was as smooth as flowing water. Let alone regular Class 9 magical beasts, even regular Class 10 magical beasts would not be able to do it better than it. With a gentle hum, the heavenly stem holy followers felt like the air around them had become transparent. The air seemed to have transformed into countless mirror-like planes. All they could see was endless, resplendent light. Everything they could see seemed to be divided into hundreds or thousands of segments. Chapter 443. The Divine Evolution Fiery Dragon's improved version of the Sun, Moon, Yin and Yang world directly bombarded the Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor reacted immediately. As his eyes lit up, the air seemed to be infected and turned into a mirror with countless cross-sections. It even emitted a faint golden light. Everything seemed to be divided in an instant. Even Ji-dong's soul detection power was no exception. At this moment, he could no longer locate the Dragon Emperor. This was the Dragon Emperor's real strength. Of course, Ji-dong was not worried that the Dragon Emperor would hurt Mao Tai and Wuliangye at all. They were his children. He could not wait to protect them. How could he hurt them? The Dragon Emperor was actually a little helpless. Although the Divine Evolution Fiery Dragon's single-target ultimate skill was powerful, and it was mixed with the dual extreme attributes of Yin and Yang frost and fire, it was naturally impossible for it to hurt a saint-level expert. If it was any other dragon that dared to attack it, the Dragon Emperor would definitely destroy it. However, it was its children in front of it. The first thing it thought of was not how to resist, but how to resist and not hurt them. Therefore, it directly released the Dragon Emperor's natal demon domain, which it would not use easily even when fighting against several Dragon Kings. It was the Dragon Drill Overlord Demon Domain, which was exclusive to the Dragon Emperor's bloodline. The Sun, Moon, Yin and Yang world which attacked in a straight line, was instantly cut into countless pieces in the Dragon Drill Overlord Demon Domain. In fact, they were still connected. However, in the Dragon Emperor's Demon Domain, the Dragon Emperor could split them up and deal with them separately. By splitting an attack into 1,000 parts and resisting the attack separately, the power of the attack would definitely be greatly reduced. This was also the secret of the Dragon Drill Overlord Demon Domain. The yellow airflow that was released from the Dragon Emperor's hand took this opportunity to sweep up and face the sun, moon, heaven and earth world of Maotai and Wuliangye. Such a powerful mid-level ultimate skill was destroyed in the blink of an eye. It should be known that the Dragon Emperor's Demon Domain could even use the diamond cutting of the opponent's body in an instant to break down the opponent's body. It was one of the most powerful demon domains in the world. However, such a top-notch demon domain did not seal the divine evolution fiery dragon's body. At the same time when the Sun and Moon world was sealed by the Dragon Drill tyrannical demonic domain, Maotai and Wuliangye had already reacted quickly. Their judgment was also superior. When they saw that their attacks were ineffective, they didn't hesitate at all. They spat out a mouthful of breath at each other, forcefully severing the connection between themselves and the Sun and Moon world. The Dragon Emperor's careful response instantly became redundant. Even if the Sun and Moon world was directly shattered, it wouldn't affect the sacred evolution fire dragon. After cutting off the connection, the Tai Chi demonic domain was released from the Maotai and Wuliangye again. It enveloped their bodies. At this moment, the Dragon Drill Overlord Demon Domain swept over. However, it could only seal the surrounding air and was unable to invade the Tai Chi demonic domain. The balance of yin and yang in the Tai Chi demonic domain did not only balance the yin and yang flames, but also the yin and yang qi of heaven and earth. It also contained the profoundness of primal chaos. What Maotai and Wuliangye possessed was the demon domain that Ji Dong would be able to use in the future. No matter how powerful the Dragon Drill Overlord Demon Domain was, it was unable to affect the interior of the Tai Chi demonic domain. It was only because the difference in demonic power between the two sides was too great that they were unable to compete with it. Roar! Maotai and Wuliangye roared again. This time, their dragon eyes became completely solemn. At the next moment, a strange scene appeared. The originally snow-white Maotai seemed to have been dyed. From the place where it was connected to the Wuliangye, a black color swept up. In the blink of an eye, it actually became the same black color as the Wuliangye. The two dragon heads were originally the same. At this moment, the color had also changed. It was impossible to tell who was who. Only the Tai Chi demonic domain around their bodies still looked like a black and white ball of light. Hu! Maotai and Wuliangye took a deep breath at the same time. The air that was covered by the Dragon Drill Overlord Demon Domain actually produced many sharp whistling sounds. The Dragon Emperor could clearly feel that the sky outside his cave had already turned completely dark. A dark purple moon quietly appeared in the sky. There was an additional layer of faint purple light on Maotai and Wuliangye. It was an extremely cold purple light. Seeing this scene, even the Fire Dragon King couldn't help but be a little stunned. What were these two little fellows trying to do? Of course, the Fire Dragon King knew the reason why the Dragon Emperor was restraining the sacred evolution Fire Dragon. He wanted to use his power to test the sacred evolution fire dragon to release its own aura when it was attacking and defending. From there, he could determine if they were really his children. It wasn't that the Dragon Emperor didn't trust the Fire Dragon King. After all, as the children of the Dragon Emperor, this identity was too sensitive in the dragon race. The Dragon Emperor wanted to do this for the other Dragon Kings to see. However, none of them expected the sacred evolution fire dragon to be so unyielding. It didn't give in to the Dragon Emperor's aura at all. It wasn't affected by the Dragon Emperor's dragon might at all. Instead, it launched consecutive powerful attacks. In fact, even before they were affected by the Dragon Emperor's dragon might, the other Dragon Kings had already recognized their identity. Even the Dragon Kings would be affected by the Dragon Emperor's authority. Only the Dragon Emperor's bloodline was an exception. When the Dragon Emperor sensed the aura released by the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon, he also recognized the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's identity. Even though there was another bloodline in the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's body apart from the Fire Dragon Kings and himself, without a doubt, the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon was naturally affected by the bloodline of the Dragon Emperor and the Fire Dragon King. However, through the battle before him, the Dragon Emperor realized that the third bloodline in the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's body had an equally profound effect on it. It wasn't inferior to the Emperor's bloodline at all. He couldn't understand what was going on. Could it be that the third bloodline was even more noble than his own? Therefore, he wanted to see what other surprises Maotai and Wuliangye could bring him. He was completely on the defensive and waited for their attacks. Even though everything in front of him had been divided into countless parts, Ji Dong could still clearly see what Maotai and Wuliangye were doing. The reason was simple. He was connected to their souls and bloodlines. How could he not sense what they were doing? These two little guys, they were actually going to use their other skill. They even learned this skill? The purplish-black solid ice emerged from the Tai Chi demonic territory quietly. The moment it left the Tai Chi demonic territory, the Tai Chi demonic territory shrank instantly as though it had withered. The Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's body also swayed slightly in the air. Maotai and Wuliangye's eyes were clearly filled with fatigue. Maotai's body also returned to its original white color. The purple solid ice came into contact with the Tai Chi demonic territory in front of them. A soft ding resounded throughout the Dragon Emperor's cave abode. Immediately after, a scene that shocked the Dragon Emperor and the 4 Dragon Kings appeared. It was the Dragon Emperor's demonic territory that was divided into thousands of layers. Suddenly, from the point where the purple solid ice collided and cracked, the purplish-black light instantly spread. It almost instantly spread to the front of the Dragon Emperor and engulfed the entire Dragon Emperor's demonic territory. Dense and sonorous shattering sounds erupted. The purplish-black light even engulfed the Dragon Emperor's body directly, as though it wanted to devour him. The Dragon Emperor, who had transformed into his human form, flashed and an illusory light flashed from his body. In the next moment, his body disappeared into thin air and directly appeared in front of Maotai and Wuliangye, evading the purplish-black light. Transmigration! Ji Dong exclaimed. That's right, the skill that the Dragon Emperor had used was the innate skill that Maotai and Wuliangye had used previously. Transmigration. It was only now that he knew that this skill had been inherited from the Dragon Emperor. Furthermore, the Dragon Emperor's transmigration was clearly much more powerful than the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's demonic territory. It was a powerful skill that the Dragon Emperor would not use lightly. Although the Dragon Emperor was afraid of injuring the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon, the fact that the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon was able to force him to use these two skills was already something that the Dragon Emperor could be proud of. The Dragon Emperor was a true saint-level expert. The moment the Dragon Emperor appeared in front of Maotai and Wuliangye, all the shattering sounds behind him combined into a boom. At the same time, the air in Dragon Emperor's cave that had been sliced into countless parts returned to normal. This situation could only mean one thing. The Dragon Emperor's Dragon Drill Overlord Demon Realm had been broken. Maotai instantly turned into the same black color as Wuliangye. That was because its own extreme Yang fire mana had transformed into extreme Yin fire mana. Their mana structure was almost exactly the same as Ji Dong's. This was not only because of Ji Dong's bloodline, but also the result that the Flaming Bar had been pursuing. Only in this way could they cooperate with Ji Dong perfectly and become the closest and most important partner for Ji Dong to protect Ji Dong's safety. Therefore, they even knew how to transform mana into each other. wasn't the skill that they performed the ultimate single-target attack that Ji Dong had once used. Forbidden, 10,000 Grand Frozen Flame? Although it was impossible for Mao Tai and Wu Yangye to perform the complete version of the Grand Frozen Flame with all the power of the heavenly stem saints like Ji Dong did against the chrysanthemum pig, their mana was still above Ji Dong's. With the help of the Tai Chi magical territory, this Grand Frozen Flame completely released the power of the ultimate skill. Even among the dragons, only the Dragon Kings could perform the ultimate skill. Of course, after performing the ultimate skill, the 5 great Dragon Kings would never be as exhausted as the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon. Their control was also much better than that of the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon. However, one must not forget that the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon was not a level 10 magical beast, but a level 9 one. Seeing that the Dragon Emperor had suddenly appeared in front of them, Mao Tai and Wu Yangye, who had released almost all of their mana, did not resign themselves to their fate. They suddenly swung their bodies and whipped their tails at the same time. The attack that broke the Dragon Emperor's pressure appeared once again. This time, everyone could see clearly that the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's body seemed to have no bones at this moment. It had completely turned into a huge whip, and its tail broke through the air with a series of distorted radiance. The yin and yang attributes were released at the same time. This was the place where Mao Tai and Wu Yangye combined their bodies, so it was naturally the most perfect place for their attributes to fuse. This pure physical attack definitely carried both of their attributes, not to mention the massive physical strength and mana contained within it. A trace of helplessness flashed through the Dragon Emperor's eyes. The Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's desire to attack was too strong. It was impossible that they didn't know that they were no longer a match for the Dragon Emperor after Qi Ji had transmigrated. However, they did not stop attacking. The Dragon Emperor gently pushed his palm out and blocked the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon's tail. This time, the miracle did not happen. The Dragon Emperor's body fell like a mountain and landed on the ground with the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon. Even though it had transformed into a human, its power was still the Dragon Emperor's. The Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon did not stop there. It turned its flexible body around and bit the Mao Tai and Wu Yangye at the Dragon Emperor. At this moment, the Dragon Emperor's eyes flickered with a strange luster. As the luster was released, its humanoid body turned back into the Dragon Emperor's majestic body that was over 50 meters long. However, it did not dodge the Mao Tai and Wu Yangye's bite. It did not even use mana to defend itself, and allowed them to bite its almost transparent diamond body. The bite force of Mao Tai and Wu Yangye was absolutely amazing. Without the slightest magical defense and muscle contraction, even the almost transparent scales on the Dragon Emperor's body couldn't completely block them. The scales were pierced by the sharp teeth, and the sharp teeth of the Mao Tai and Wu Yangye had already bitten into the Dragon Emperor's body. In an instant, blood spurted out. "Your Majesty!" The 4 Dragon Kings exclaimed at the same time and were about to pounce on the Dragon Emperor. "Don't move!" The majestic voice of the Dragon Emperor rang out, stopping the 4 Dragon Kings. Mao Tai and Wu Yangye, who were biting him, were also dumbfounded because their tails were caught by the Dragon Emperor's hand. At this moment, the Dragon Emperor's body returned to its original state and brought them up into the air. The place where they bit was exactly the Dragon Emperor's chest. Their 15-meter-long bodies were hanging in the air, which looked a little funny. The Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon was not stunned because of the change in the Dragon Emperor's body size, but because they could feel the connection of the Dragon Emperor's blood as it flowed into their mouths. The Dragon Emperor looked at them with a kind gaze and sighed, "My children, this is my punishment for not protecting you back then. You've suffered all these years." Chapter 444. The Dragon Emperor exuded a rich demonic power that wrapped around the Mao Tai and Wu Yangye as if he was gently caressing them. The Maotai and Wuliangye released their mouths at the same time and looked up at the Dragon Emperor in a daze. Dragons were not humans after all, and their emotions were much more direct. It was just like how they immediately recognized the Fire Dragon King when they first saw it. Low growls kept coming from the Maotai and Wuliangye, but the hostility in their eyes had completely disappeared. They were still wondering why Ji Dong didn't do anything when they were attacked, but now they understood. The invincible powerhouse in front of them was actually their father. The Fire Dragon King flew out and suddenly spread its wings. It hugged the sacred evolution Fire Dragon tightly in the air and sobbed. My children, Mommy finally sees you again. You're finally home. This is your home." The Dragon Emperor spread his huge wings and enveloped the Fire Dragon King and the sacred evolution Fire Dragon. The family of three couldn't help but sigh. Upon seeing this scene, the heavenly stem saints, led by Ji Dong, revealed faint smiles on their faces. This heartwarming scene had also infected every single one of them. However, the other three Dragon Kings had completely different expressions. The Water Dragon King squatted there and didn't say anything. There was a complicated look in its eyes. It was both gratified and jealous. Fire and water were incompatible, and the Dragon Clan was no exception. It had never had a good relationship with the Fire Dragon King. In contrast, the Golden Dragon King wore an elated look on his face, and his eyes were filled with envy. Among the four dragon monarchs, he was the smallest, and his cultivation rank was slightly inferior to the other three dragon monarchs, so he was naturally the youngest. On the other hand, the Diamond Dragon King's eyes were dim. It lowered its head and lay there silently, as if it was a little sad. Fury whispered into Ji Dong's ear, "No wonder Thunder is so afraid of your Maotai and Wuliangye. The sacred evolution fire dragons are too powerful. They can even exchange a few blows with a martial saint like the Dragon Emperor. Their combined strength is definitely comparable to a 10th grade magical beast." Ji Dong nodded and said, "Senior brother, now you know why I didn't let them participate in our trial. In terms of overall strength, Maotai and Wuliangye are stronger than me. Their magic power is much stronger than mine, and they know almost all the skills that I know, except for the Sword of the Fire God and the God-slaying strike. However, they also have skills that I don't have, and I can't tell their limit." Not long after, the Dragon Emperor slowly loosened his wings, but the Fire Dragon King was still hugging the sacred evolution Fire Dragon tightly. Big drops of tears rolled down from her eyes. There seemed to be something else in the Dragon Emperor's eyes, and his benevolence was gradually replaced by dignity. He said in a low voice, "My friend Ji Dong, I would like to talk to you alone. Vanessa, bring the other human friends out for a while." "Yes, Your Majesty." Other than the Fire Dragon King Vanessa, the other three Dragon Kings replied respectfully in unison. Fury looked at Hyoheim in confusion, and Ji Dong nodded at him. Seeing how confident Ji Dong was, Fury heaved a sigh of relief. However, Chen Sichuan frowned. When the others left with the Dragon Kings, she didn't move. The Dragon Emperor looked at her with a hint of displeasure in his eyes, but Chen Sichuan had already said, "I must stay. The core of life in which Maotai and Wuliangye live belongs to me. Without the core of life, they can't grow as healthy as they are now. If you want to talk to Ji Dong about Maotai and Wuliangye, then I have a reason to stay." As she spoke, she deliberately took back the core of life from Ji Dong's hand. How did the core of life become hers? Ji Dong was slightly stunned, but he quickly understood what Chen Sichuan meant. She was worried about him facing the Dragon Emperor alone, so she deliberately found a reason to stay. Ji Dong didn't refute. It was good for Chen Sichuan to stay. With her around, she would be able to support him greatly in terms of mana and soul power. In fact, he had already vaguely guessed what the Dragon Emperor wanted to talk to him about. The Dragon Emperor said indifferently, "Since that's the case, you can stay too." At this moment, the sacred Yen Fire Dragon roared. Ji-dong turned his head and saw Mao-tai and Wolyangye peeking out from the side of the Fire Dragon King's neck and looking at him. Ji-dong gave them a comforting smile. Only then did they comfortably lean into the arms of the Fire Dragon King, feeling the warmth of a mother. The other heavenly stem holy disciples and the 4 Dragon Kings left. In order to have a better conversation with Ji-dong, the Dragon Emperor turned back into his human form and stood opposite to Ji-dong and Chen Xishuan. Ji-dong, my friend, I know that you came to the Dragon Valley this time to find suitable dragons for the heavenly stem holy disciples who don't have mounts to sign contracts with. I agree to this. Not only can I let you choose, I can also guarantee that the dragons you choose are the most outstanding elites of the Dragon Clan. I can even send at least one Dragon King to be the magical beast partner of one of your friends. With the company of the Dragon Clan, the strength of the heavenly stem holy disciples will greatly increase in a short period of time. You will also have more power to protect yourselves in the battle against the 5 elements continent. At the same time, there is a divine artifact that belongs to the heavenly stem holy disciples in the Dragon Clan. I can return it to you and further increase your strength. What do you think? Taking a deep look at the Dragon Emperor, Ji-dong revealed a faint smile as he said, "Thank you, Your Majesty. I sincerely thank you for your support on behalf of the heavenly stem holy disciples. I understand what you mean. You want Mao-tai and Wolyangye to stay, right?" When the Dragon Emperor revealed his majesty again, Ji-dong had already guessed his thoughts. Putting himself in the Dragon Emperor's shoes, he would also do the same as a father. Therefore, Ji-dong didn't feel angry at all. Ji-dong's straightforwardness made the Dragon Emperor a bit speechless. He couldn't say what he was going to say. Ji-dong said earnestly, "Senior Dragon Emperor, I can totally understand your feelings. Your request is not excessive at all. Mao-tai and Wolyangye are the children of you and Senior Fire Dragon King. It's natural for them to stay and serve you. I can see that you want to make it up to them. Therefore, I agree to your request. Furthermore, it has nothing to do with us, the heavenly stem holy disciples' choice of magical beast partners. As long as Mao-tai and Wolyangye are willing to stay, I won't stop them." The Dragon Emperor's eyes were filled with gratitude when he heard Ji-dong's words. He sighed and said, "Young man, thank you. However, you should understand that this matter isn't as simple as you make it out to be. They do have Vanessa's and my bloodline, but their appearance, strength, and attributes are different from us. This is the result of mutation. Furthermore, they have another bloodline. If I'm not wrong, this bloodline is related to you. Even their innate skill, replication, is closely related to you." Ji-dong nodded his head and said, "When we saved Mao-tai and Wolyangye, they were still dragon eggs. Their own fire attribute had been invaded by the ice and snow dragon's cold attribute for many years, and they were in danger of dying at any time. Therefore, raging flames brought them to the core world, and used the high temperature and pure fire elements in the core lake to help them recover. I don't know much about this process, but later on, in order to hatch them successfully, I used my own blood and some other gems to set up a formation, which allowed them to hatch successfully. Their current appearance should also be related to this, and it is precisely because I used my blood to hatch them that they will have the skills I know. Not only are we connected by blood, but even our souls are connected, and even the power of chaos is the same." At this point, Ji-dong couldn't help but reveal a faint smile on his face. The tacit understanding between him and the Saint Evolution Flaming Dragon could not be described with words. The Dragon Emperor sighed when he heard Ji-dong's description. "Ji-dong, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You must have sacrificed a lot of blood. Otherwise, they wouldn't have inherited your bloodline. You and the Empress of the Flaming Bar saved my children, and I will remember this kindness. However, they are destined to never return to Vanessa and I. Your bloodline and the connection between your souls made them feel closer to you. They won't be separated from you easily. Otherwise, Vanessa would have brought them back after reuniting with them. Jidong frowned when he heard the Dragon Emperor's words. Your Majesty, what do you mean? The Dragon Emperor looked a little apologetic, but he still said it. I hope that you can help me retrieve the bloodline that you left in them and erase all the memories between you and them. This is the only way that my children can truly return to me. What? Jidong was shocked when he heard the Dragon Emperor's words. You want Maotai and Wuliangye to forget about me? No, I can't do that. Senior Dragon Emperor, it's true that they are your children. However, I've long regarded them as my family. I won't be able to bear the pain if they forget about me. The Dragon Emperor nodded silently and said, I know that my request is very excessive, but I have no other choice. There are some things that I won't hide from you. The 4 Dragon Kings that you saw just now are actually my wives. In the Dragon Clan, the Dragon Emperor has unlimited mating rights, but his wives can only be a few Dragon Kings. Apart from the Azure Dragon King who is male, the other 4 Dragon Kings can only be female. The fertility of the Dragon Clan can be said to be the worst among all the other clans. It's been more than 5,000 years since I became the Dragon Emperor. However, I only have 2 children in these 5,000 years. One of them is Maotai and Wuliangye. They are the children of me and the Fire Dragon King, Vanessa. They were stolen by the traitor Feng Shuang. The other one is the child that I gave birth to with the Diamond Dragon King. It should be the direct descendant of the Dragon Emperor. However, it also has a problem. It has been 4,000 years, but it still hasn't hatched. It has mutated. Mutated? Jidong looked at the Dragon Emperor in surprise. The Dragon Emperor nodded and said, Yes, it has mutated. However, what makes us feel helpless is that it's not its body that has mutated, but the eggshell that is carrying it. Its eggshell has become extremely hard and can even withstand the bombardment of some ordinary ultimate skills. The most terrifying thing is that after 4,000 years, the body of my child has even assimilated with its eggshell and evolved some strange innate skills. I'm afraid that it will never hatch from its eggshell. How can it inherit my mantle if it can't become a dragon? 3,000 years have passed. I haven't impregnated any female dragon for 3,000 years. I'm afraid that I won't be able to have any offspring in this lifetime. The Dragon Clan needs a successor. Without a doubt, Maotai and Wuliangye are the most suitable. If they can enter the Saint Tier in the future, I'm afraid that their strength will surpass mine and catch up to the ancestors of the Ancestor Dragon. At this point, there was obvious sorrow in the Dragon Emperor's eyes. He said, I'm sorry, Jidong. It's precisely because of this that I have to leave Maotai and Wuliangye behind to inherit my Dragon Emperor's crown and become the next leader of the Dragon Clan. Jidong frowned and said, however, they aren't Earth-attributed dragons. Will the Dragon Clan acknowledge them? The Dragon Emperor said in a deep voice, the situation of Maotai and Wuliangye is special. However, my bloodline flows in their bodies after all. Even though they aren't diamond dragons, as long as they inherit my crown, the children born in the next generation will definitely regain the diamond dragon bloodline. I can tell you a secret of the Dragon Clan. The crown on my head isn't a natural one, but it's an inherited divine weapon of the Dragon Clan. It's controlled by successive dragon emperors. There are 2 uses for this divine weapon. One is to condense the inheritance of the pure bloodline, and the other is to allow its owner to safely break through to the Saint Tier. Of course, the condition is that the dragon who inherits it must have the royal bloodline. It's best if the Dragon Emperor is a diamond dragon, but when necessary, it's not impossible for other dragons with royal bloodlines to inherit it. Such a situation has happened in the history of the Dragon Clan. Therefore, if I had another choice, I wouldn't have made such an unreasonable request. However, I really have no other choice. I have to make a choice for the continuation of the Dragon Emperor's bloodline. As long as you agree, I'm willing to replace them as your mount after I pass on the divine weapon of the dragon crown to them. Chapter 445. I'm willing to replace them as your mount. Ji Dong was so shocked that his mind went blank. The Dragon Emperor actually offered such a powerful condition so that Maotai and Wuliangye could be separated from his bloodline and truly stay in the Dragon Valley. The Dragon Emperor as a mount? What kind of concept was this? The Dragon Emperor wasn't just a saint-tier expert, he was also the leader of all dragons. Regardless of whether it was a true giant dragon or a much weaker earth dragon, in front of him, they were all just subordinates. The Dragon Emperor wasn't a chrysanthemum pig. Ji Dong had personally witnessed his strength just now. Although there might still be a gap between him and the Earth Dragon ancestor, as the Emperor of the Dragon race, who knew what kind of secret skills he possessed. Moreover, given his identity, he would definitely keep his promise. After becoming his mount partner, he would definitely help him to the best of his ability. This temptation was too great for anyone. However, this also showed the Dragon Emperor's determination to keep Maotai and Wuliangye. He had already offered himself, so he would definitely not allow himself to be rejected. What should I do? Ji Dong was unprecedentedly conflicted. From the perspective of reuniting the Dragon Emperor's family, Maotai and Wuliangye should definitely be kept. The Dragon Emperor and the Fire Dragon King would definitely treat them like pearls in their palms. They had a supreme status in the entire dragon tribe. However, ever since they were born, except for the year after they died in the Flaming Bar, they had almost always been with Ji Dong. Ji Dong treated them as his younger sisters instead of magical beasts. They were connected by blood and soul. He really couldn't bear to let Maotai and Wuliangye forget him. Seeing that Ji Dong was silent, the Dragon Emperor thought that he had been attracted by his condition. He said in a deep voice, "As long as you agree, I can swear on the safety of the Dragon tribe that I will always be your mount and stay by your side as long as you are alive. How about that?" Ji Dong took a deep breath and clenched his teeth as if he had made up his mind about something. He said, "I promise you." It was as if he had used up all his strength to say these 4 simple words. His face was a little pale. Chen Sichuan, who was standing beside Ji Dong, narrowed her eyes. Disappointment was evident in her eyes. Could it be that the man she loved couldn't hold himself back in the face of such great benefits? When Chen Sichuan's heart was in a mess, Ji Dong continued, "Senior Dragon Emperor, I promise you that I'll let Maotai and Wuliangye stay. If it won't cause any harm to them, I'll also agree to withdraw my bloodline and soul connection with them. However, I don't need you to be my mount, nor do I need you to swear an oath. The reason why I return them to you is that they're your children and the future hope of the Dragon tribe. If I let you become my magical beast companion, wouldn't I be using them for a trade? Whether they remember me or not, I will not allow anyone to barter with them." Ji Dong's words were resolute and decisive. The Dragon Monarch's relaxed eyes narrowed as he stared at Ji Dong with undisguised admiration. "No, I don't agree." At this moment, Chen Sichuan, who was standing beside Ji Dong, suddenly spoke. Her words shocked both Ji Dong and the Dragon Monarch. "Teacher Ji Dong, I don't agree to let you return Maotai and Wuliangye to the Dragon tribe." Chen Sichuan was obviously agitated. She did not give an even when she was facing the Dragon Monarch. Although she was no longer the Empress of the Flaming Bar, her arrogance as the Flaming Bar Empress had not disappeared. She was not timid at all even when she was facing the 5 overlords of the God Realm, let alone the Dragon Monarch. Ji Dong looked at her and could not help but frown. Although he did not think for a long time, it was a difficult decision for him to agree to keep Maotai and Wuliangye. Now that Chen Sichuan suddenly stopped him, it would undoubtedly shake his decision. Moreover, he did not think that Chen Sichuan had any reason to stop him. Chen Sichuan said, "Teacher Ji Dong, if I remember correctly, you once said that Maotai and Wuliangye were incubated by you and the Empress of the Flaming Bar. I would like to ask you, did you contribute more during the incubation process, Or did the Empress of the Flaming Bar contribute more? When it came to the Flaming Bar, Ji Dong did not hesitate at all. He immediately answered, "Of course, the Flaming Bar contributed more. The Flaming Bar guarded Maotai and Wuliangye almost every day. In the process of resurrecting them, they even used their natal red lotus seed, and used their mana to help them get rid of the cold poison every day. Compared to the Flaming Bar, my contribution was negligible." Chen Sichuan nodded and said loudly, "If that's the case, the Inferno Empress has sacrificed more than you in the process of hatching the sacred evolution fiery dragon. In that case, what right do you have to return it to the Dragon Clan? Have you sought the permission of the Flaming Bar Empress? Have you ever thought about why the Flaming Bar Empress put in so much effort to incubate Maotai and Wuliangye? Could it be that she has something to rely on or is fond of the Dragon Clan? Definitely not. You've said that she is a god. Why would she need help from the Dragon Clan? Then why did she do that? There's only one reason, and that's for you. Didn't you say how much you love her? In a sense, Maotai and Wuliangye can be considered as a great gift from her to you. If you return the sacred evolution flaming dragon that she gave you to the Dragon Clan, are you worthy of the deep love that the Flaming Bar Empress has for you?" Chen Sichuan spoke very quickly and was very emotional. Ji Dong was speechless. The smile that the Flaming Bar gave him immediately appeared in his mind. When he heard Chen Sichuan's words, it was as if he could see the Flaming Bar blaming him. In an instant, his expression changed. Chen Sichuan panted slightly and continued, "Also, you think that returning Maotai and Wuliangye to the Dragon Clan is the happiest thing is just your wishful thinking. Have you ever asked them what kind of life they want to live the most? Is it to be by your side? Or to stay in the Dragon Valley? Reclaim the bloodline? That's easy to say, but is it really that easy to do? The lifespan of the Dragon Clan is so long and the lifespan of humans is much shorter in comparison. Why can't you wait for 100 years and let the Maotai and Wuliangye return willingly? Why risk reclaiming the bloodline and erasing their memories? Is this fair to them?" Ji Dong's gaze gradually returned to normal. He stared at Chen Sichuan and said calmly, "You seem to know a lot. The sacred evolution fire dragon was given to Ji Dong by her when she was still in the Flaming Bar. Now that the sacred evolution fire dragon had grown up and had the ability to protect Ji Dong and help Ji Dong, but now the Dragon Emperor wanted the sacred evolution fire dragon to return it to the dragon tribe. She couldn't accept it. As for the Dragon Emperor's request to become Ji Dong's magical beast companion, she didn't think much about it because she knew Ji Dong too well. Given the relationship between Ji Dong and the sacred evolution fire dragon, he wouldn't exchange it for the sacred evolution fire dragon. Chen Sichuan was very clear about how powerful the opponents Ji Dong would face in the future would be. The Earth Dragon ancestor was powerful enough. It could only use the power of 3 elements, which was the result of years of accumulation. Before Darkness Tianji devoured the 4 sacred beasts, the Earth Dragon ancestor was indeed the most powerful person below the god level. Even the Flame Monarch and Dark Flame Devil King in the core world were not its match. However, after Darkness Tianji devoured the 4 sacred beasts, it already possessed the 4 great attributes. After this period of absorption and assimilation, its strength was even above that of the Earth Dragon ancestor. It was the kind of strength that truly stood on the edge of the divine realm, but would never be able to enter the divine realm. Based on Ji Dong's stubborn character, the Dark Tianji could be said to be the culprit behind the death of the Flaming Bar. He would have to face it sooner or later. Although Ji Dong had saint-level talent, his current strength was still far from the saint level. It was almost impossible for him to defeat the Dark Tianji in less than 4 years' time. Moreover, the Dark Heavenly Stem Saints had all the 10 great divine weapons. In 5 years' time, the strength of their AO bodies would definitely rise to another level. The Dark Tianji completely ruled the entire 5 elements Dark Continent and could mobilize the power of the entire 5 elements Dark Continent. On the other hand, the five elements dark continent was divided into 5 countries. No matter how one looked at it, when the red lotus heavenly fire disappeared, the 5 elements light continent would not have the slightest advantage. Under such circumstances, Ji Dong needed the help of the sacred evolution fiery dragon even more. The pained expression gradually faded from Ji Dong's eyes. He subconsciously clenched his fists and said, "Si Xian, you're right. The sacred evolution fiery dragon was left to me by the flaming bar. However, in the near future, when I take revenge for the flaming bar, I will still have to look for the flaming bar. At that time, what about Maotai and Wuliangye? Before I leave this world, I have to find a good home for them." Moreover, the Dragon Emperor has been using a negotiating tone. In fact, if he is determined to cut off my relationship with Maotai and Wuliangye, with his saint-level strength, as long as he kills me, the bloodline and soul connection will naturally be severed. As for how to erase the memory of Maotai and Wuliangye, I believe that the Dragon Emperor also has a way. With my strength, I believe that it will not be difficult to find a magical beast companion in the Dragon Valley. This is the best of both worlds. You don't have to say any more, I have made up my mind. In fact, Ji Dong was not willing to be separated from the sacred evolution fiery dragon. Based on his character, he would definitely argue with the Dragon Emperor if he came here with Maotai and Wuliangye. At the very least, he would strive to be with the sacred evolution fiery dragon before his death. However, he was not alone now. He came here with all the heavenly stem holy disciples. As the leader, he had to consider more than just himself. Once the Dragon Emperor was enraged, not only would the heavenly stem holy disciples lose the dragon tribe as their magical beast companion, they might also not be able to leave this place safely. Therefore, after he understood the Dragon Emperor's intention, he made his final decision after weighing the pros and cons. As someone who had lived 2 lives, no matter how impulsive Ji Dong was, he would consider things more deeply than Chen Sichuan. Ever since the death of the Flaming Bar, he was no longer as impulsive as before. Apart from occasionally going crazy during battles, most of the time, he would only act when he was absolutely confident. Right after Ji Dong finished his words, the Dragon Emperor suddenly applauded him. Both Ji Dong and Chen Sichuan couldn't help but look at him. The Dragon Emperor smiled faintly and said, "You're indeed the heavenly stem holy king of this generation. You're the best in both temperament and intelligence. However, I'm not sure about your strength. You've said that you can only live for another 10 years. It's not that I can't wait for another 10 years, but there are 2 things that you have to do. I'll allow you to return my children to the dragon tribe 10 years later. First, you have to guarantee their safety. Second, you have to prove to me that you have the ability to protect them. If you're not as powerful as my children, then you're not qualified to be their companion. Do you understand, Ji Dong?" Ji Dong looked at the Dragon Emperor in astonishment. He didn't expect the Dragon Emperor's attitude to change so suddenly. He squinted his eyes and took a deep breath. "Senior Dragon Emperor, thank you for giving me a chance. Please enlighten me." Chen Sichuan's eyes flickered with a hint of understanding. She looked at the Dragon Emperor and understood something. She didn't say anything else and backed away, leaving the space to Ji Dong and the Dragon Emperor. No one trusted Ji Dong and Ji Dong's strength more than her. Buzz. An invisible energy instantly spread out and a powerful suction force appeared in the Dragon Emperor's cave. An enormous pressure like a mountain pressed down on Hyoheim. At the same time, Ji Dong's eyes lit up and a dazzling silver light shot out from his eyes. The divine flame Saint King armor appeared under his skin along with Feng Wu's dragon snake transformation, instantly covering his entire body. How could he not use his full strength when facing the Dragon Emperor? At this moment, the other heavenly stem holy disciples arrived at the entrance of the Dragon Emperor's cave under the lead of the 4 Dragon Kings. The Saint Flame Dragon was the first to react when it sensed the powerful magical fluctuation. Even though it was still in its mother's embrace, It immediately jumped out of the Flame Dragon King's embrace. Maotai and Wuliangye looked in the direction of the cave at the same time. They could naturally feel the pressure that Ji Dong was under. The Flame Dragon King rested its huge wings on them and smiled. "Silly children, don't worry. This is your father testing his ability. If you want to become a human partner of the Dragon Emperor's descendant, you must have a good temperament, wisdom, and strength. Since he has already made his move, that means that Ji Dong has passed the test. Do you still not believe him?" Maotai and Wuliangye groaned at the same time with dissatisfaction in their eyes. The Heavenly Stem holy disciples also looked at each other with furrowed brows. Chapter 446. After flying out of the Dragon Valley, the sacred evolution fire dragons swung their bodies excitedly. Their strong flexibility, coupled with their special acceleration ability, allowed them to accelerate in an instant with just a swing of their bodies and dash thousands of meters away like a bolt of lightning. Over the past 6 months, the sacred evolution fire dragons had continuously challenged the 10th stage dragon clan and received guidance from their parent. They had also improved tremendously. Although they had not leveled up, compared to half a year ago, their combat abilities were enough to give the Dragon Kings a headache. Chen Sichuan sat on the neck of Wuliangye and looked at Ji Dong, who was standing on Maotai's head. No matter how the sacred evolution fire dragon sped up or moved, Ji Dong seemed to be glued to Maotai's head. With his white hair and white robes, Ji Dong stood there with his deep gaze fixed in front of him. Even though their souls were connected, Chen Sichuan did not know what he was thinking. Ji Dong had not made much progress in terms of soul power over the past 6 months. On the other hand, Chen Sichuan's soul had fused with Ji Dong's, and the trace of divine sense left in his sea of soul had made great progress. Now, even if they were not physically in contact, as long as they were within a certain distance, they could still complete a soul connection. Although it seemed like they were just sitting quietly on the sacred evolution fire dragon's body, in reality, their souls had already explored an area with a diameter of at least 100,000 meters. This was completely unimaginable for a devil master who was not a supreme being. Even among supreme beings, there were not many who could do this. The sacred evolution fire dragon specifically looked for misty areas to pass through, twisting the cotton-like white clouds into a mess. It never got tired of it. "Sichuan, tell me about the situation this time. Since you want me to help you, you have to let me know what I have to do." Ji Dong's voice rang out in the depths of Chen Sichuan's soul. Chen Sichuan said, "It's not easy to break off the engagement. The other party is very powerful and is also the pillar of the Dongmu Empire. Therefore, this matter cannot be handled by my father. Otherwise, it will affect the entire empire. Therefore, we can only handle it ourselves. I asked you to accompany me back this time because I want you to become my fiancé's love rival and compete with him. As long as you defeat him fair and square, then this matter will be much easier to resolve." Ji Dong frowned and said, "Compete fairly? What kind of competition? Don't tell me you want me to pursue you in front of him?" Although he had expected that this matter would be very troublesome, he had still underestimated it. Chen Sichuan giggled and said, "Teacher Ji Dong, you're not afraid of facing thousands of men and horses. Is it that difficult for you to pursue me? We're just putting on a show. But don't worry, I won't stop you from pursuing me. I only need you to be my boyfriend. I'll bring you back and announce that you're my boyfriend. Then, I don't need you to do anything. I think they'll naturally come looking for you. When that time comes, you'll have to deal with all of them." Ji Dong looked at Chen Sichuan's snickering face and said, "Aren't you afraid that I'll lose on purpose so that I can marry you off?" Chen Sichuan glanced at him. The flirtatious look in her eyes made Ji Dong's heart beat faster. She said, "Teacher Ji Dong, it's fine if you really do that. Because you'll see my dead body very soon. You can choose not to have me, but if I'm forced to marry someone else, I'll die in front of you." Ji Dong looked at Chen Sichuan helplessly. What else could he say? He started to think about how he could get through this successfully. It wasn't to get through the obstacle on the other side, but to get through the obstacle in his heart. He was most afraid that this act of pretending to be Chen Sichuan's lover would turn into reality in the end. Ji Dong was a person with a strong desire to control himself. Regardless of whether it was in his previous or current life, he was still the same. He was used to controlling everything within his control. Feelings were obviously the hardest to control. The more he was with Chen Sichuan, the more he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to control his feelings. If anything happened, he would let down the flaming bar. "Teacher Ji Dong, why aren't you saying anything?" Chen Sichuan playfully asked Hyoheim. Ji Dong snorted and said, "What do you want me to say?" Chen Sichuan pouted her red lips and said, "Do you really want me to marry someone else? Do you have a conscience?" Ji Dong looked at Chen Sichuan in shock. His eyes widened subconsciously. Ever since he met Chen Sichuan, she had always been so gentle to him. This was the first time he heard Chen Sichuan say something like that. Chen Sichuan was also a little surprised. She knew that the reason why she could say something like that was not because of the flaming bar, but because of the memory and the soul of the original body. In a sense, the current flaming bar was not the pure flaming bar of the past. Although her divine sense was strong, it would still be affected by the change of body. Looking at Ji Dong's dumbstruck expression, Chen Sichuan giggled and said, "Teacher Ji Dong, you look so silly right now." Ji Dong came back to his senses, but he didn't look at Chen Sichuan. Her smile was enough to make any man lose his immunity. "Teacher Ji Dong, you haven't answered my question. Do you really want me to marry someone else?" Chen Sichuan's expression became serious. Ji Dong said, "You decide your own matters. I can't help you decide who you want to marry." Chen Sichuan said, "But you can decide whether I want to marry you or not." Ji Dong was speechless. After a long silence he said, "Sichuan, you're a good lady. If I didn't have the flaming bar, perhaps I would really be moved by you. I won't deny this. You're very attractive to any man, and I'm no exception. However, my heart is already filled with the flaming bar. Even if she's no longer here, there's no place for you in my heart. I can't betray the flaming bar for you." Chen Sichuan looked at Ji Dong in a daze and said, "Then, what if you really fall in love with me one day?" Ji Dong's expression changed. "There won't be such a day. If I really find that I can't control myself, I'll definitely cut off this possibility. Even if I don't fulfill the flaming bar's last wish, I'll go find her in advance." "You?" Chen Sichuan looked at him with a complicated expression. She kept cursing in her heart. Of course, she wasn't cursing Ji Dong, but the demonic god. She finally understood the meaning of the demonic god. She and Ji Dong were clearly together, but they couldn't acknowledge each other. Wasn't this torture caused by the demonic god? The sacred evolution flaming dragon had also calmed down. Perhaps it had sensed the emotional fluctuations between Ji Dong and Chen Sichuan because of the Maotai and Wuliang. Of course, they didn't slow down at all. It was easy to get to the Dongmu Empire. All they had to do was fly in the direction of the rising sun. Chen Sichuan lay on the back of the sacred evolution flaming dragon and didn't speak for a long time. Ji Dong was happy to have some peace and quiet. He closed his eyes and sat on the head of the Maotai to concentrate on his cultivation. He had already developed a habit. Whenever his resistance to Chen Sichuan started to weaken, he would think about the flaming bar. Only the figure of the flaming bar could dispel all other distracting thoughts. Even though this would bring him unforgettable pain, if he didn't do this, he really couldn't be sure that he would always be able to resist Chen Sichuan's feelings. With the increase in its cultivation, the sacred evolution flaming dragon's flying speed had also reached an extremely terrifying level. It only needed a few days to fly from the Three Harmony mountain range to the Dongmu Empire. Although Ji Dong's attitude towards Chen Sichuan was no longer cold, he still maintained a distance. 3 days passed in this somewhat indifferent atmosphere. Chen Xishuan didn't disturb Ji Dong anymore. She knew that when dealing with Ji Dong, the more impatient she was, the more counterproductive it would be. In these 3 days, the two of them didn't speak more than 10 sentences. Ji Dong deliberately maintained a distance from her, so she was content. Anyway, they hadn't reached their destination yet. All of Chen Xishuan's plans in her mind had to start from the Dongmu Empire. The sky turned dark. The sacred evolution flaming dragon landed in a forest under the guidance of Ji Dong's thoughts. Ji Dong jumped down from the Maotai and patted its head. "Let's rest here tonight. You can go find something to eat." The Maotai and Wuliangyan nodded and their huge bodies rose into the air. For them, only high-level magical beast cores were the best food. Ji Dong's stock was already very little that could attract them. Chen Xishuan looked up at the sacred evolution flaming dragon flying away. She held Si Dong in her arms and slowly walked to Ji Dong's side. Suddenly, Chen Xishuan quickly freed a hand and held on to Ji Dong's right arm. Of course, Ji Dong didn't have any defenses against her. He struggled for a moment as she held onto his arm, but Chen Xishuan held on tightly. Her smooth, delicate body and the elasticity of her skin gave Ji Dong a strong stimulation. This feeling was not as simple as being charming. It was enough to make him commit a crime. "What are you doing, Xi-Xian?" Ji Dong was shocked and angry at the same time. Chen Xishuan wouldn't let go of Ji Dong's arm no matter what. She snorted and said, "Nothing. You haven't been paying attention to me for the past few days. We're about to reach our Dongmu Empire. Do you want to continue like this? Don't forget, you came back with me to pretend to be my lover. How can lovers be so distant? I'm just practicing beforehand. I'm just holding your arm. That's not too much, is it?" Chen Xishuan's request was not too much, but the problem was, how many people could resist the temptation of the world's most beautiful woman? Without waiting for Ji Dong to speak, Chen Xishuan continued, "Teacher Ji Dong, I hired you. You just have to bear with it. I don't care even if I'm a girl, so why would a man like you care? It's not like I'll lose a piece of flesh if I touch you. You have to show the value of one of the top 10 wines. For the sake of the dead flaming bar, you have to bear with it." When he heard Chen Xishuan mention the flaming bar, what else could Ji Dong say? His brows were still furrowed. Being hugged by Chen Xishuan was definitely a form of intense torture. It was almost unbearable. He wanted to commit a crime. Especially since Chen Xishuan didn't seem to know that she was hugging Ji Dong's arm. Half of her body was already pressed against Ji Dong's arm. "Xi-Xian, can we not practice anymore? When we reach the Dongmu Empire, I'll definitely cooperate with you." Ji Dong's voice was filled with helplessness. He just wanted to get through this hurdle as soon as possible. Chen Xishuan tilted her head and moved closer to him. She said, "When we reach the Dongmu Empire, will you really cooperate with me? Will you keep your word?" Ji Dong hurriedly nodded and said, Of course, of course." Chen Xishuan giggled and said, "That's more like it. Since we're lovers for the time being, when the time comes, not only do we have to have some intimate contact with each other, but you also have to change your tone when you speak to me. You can't be as cold and indifferent as usual. If that's the case, I'll still be seen through. Those people aren't easy to deceive." Ji Dong clearly knew that Chen Xishuan's request had exceeded what he had agreed to, but in order to get through this hurdle, he had no choice but to nod. Even if Chen Xishuan's overall strength was inferior to Ji Dong's, her cultivation was still at the level of a 7 crowns heavenly stem holy disciple. Unless Ji Dong wanted to seriously injure her, he wouldn't be able to pull his arm away if she insisted on hugging him. Ji Dong swore to himself that he wouldn't give Chen Xishuan another chance to get close to him. Didn't she know how tempting this was? Even if he had lived 2 lives, his body was still that of a virgin. Virgins were too sensitive. Seeing that Ji Dong had clearly agreed, Chen Xishuan was satisfied and let go of Ji Dong's arm. Looking at Ji Dong's red face, she couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Chen Sichuan didn't say anything during the past few days when she kept her distance. Everything seemed to be normal. Now that she suddenly made things difficult for him, it really caught Ji Dong off guard. Chen Sichuan realized that she was becoming more and more like the little demoness. Sichuan, I'll find a place to clean up first. After saying that, Ji Dong didn't dare to stay any longer. He leaped up and used the Phoenix Dance Dragon Snake transformation. His whole body shot out like an arrow and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Looking at his departing figure, Chen Sichuan finally couldn't help but laugh. Ji Dong, you're finally falling for it. Actually, I don't want you to betray the flaming bar. As long as I can find an opportunity for you to say those 3 words to me, we can be together, you fool. Plop, after Ji Dong left Chen Sichuan, he immediately unleashed his soul power and found a river as fast as he could. Then, his whole body crashed into it and fell into the river. The cool river water soaked his whole body. Only with the help of the cold feeling did the raging fire in his heart weaken a little. Only when he truly came into contact with Chen Sichuan did he realize how terrifying her temptation was. Chapter 447. Ji Dong launched the scorching sun triple strike while the Dragon Emperor took 3 steps back. It seemed to be a process of attacking and defending. However, be it themselves or Chen Sichuan, who was standing far away with the flaming bar's divine soul, they all knew that the Dragon Emperor was at a disadvantage and had lost a move. The Dragon Emperor could not understand how Ji Dong could compress his demonic energy to such an extent. It was so powerful that it should not belong to a 7-crown devil master. Even a 9-crown supreme powerhouse's attack would not be so powerful. Moreover, there was a stacking effect. Coupled with the suddenness of the attack, the Dragon Emperor had no choice but to retreat in order to avoid getting hurt. Most importantly, Ji Dong's compressed attack penetrated his opponent's body before it was launched. It was like installing a bomb in his opponent's body before it was activated and exploded. The entire process was as fast as lightning. If it was not for her amazing eyesight, Chen Sichuan would not have been able to see what happened. Ji Dong was delighted. He was not delighted because he had forced the Dragon Emperor to retreat, but because he had inadvertently opened up a very meaningful combat method for himself under the huge pressure previously, the use of God-killing attraction in actual combat. If the opponent was an ordinary human being, the God-killing attraction might attract the opponent and kill him with the God-killing attraction. However, what if the opponent was an opponent like the Dragon Emperor? In that case, the God Annihilation Attraction could also be used as an auxiliary ability to accelerate and change the direction of one's advance. Simply put, if Ji Dong's body was charging forward and it wanted to stop him, the fastest way was to use the God Annihilation Attraction to forcefully change the direction of its advance. Inertia was hard to change. In the air, even a powerhouse like Dragon Emperor had to flap his wings constantly to change his direction once he accelerated. However, it was different for Ji Dong with God Destruction Attraction. As long as his body could withstand the great pulling force, he would be able to change his direction through God Destruction Attraction in a split second so that he could escape from inertia and inflict heavy damage to his opponent while he was still in a state of shock. Although Ji Dong didn't have God Destruction Attraction, it was different for him. Under the huge pressure brought by the Dragon Emperor, Ji Dong comprehended the magical effect of the God-killing attraction. How could he not be surprised? It was a unique skill that could save his life at a critical moment. However, his joy only flashed in his mind for a second. After all, the battle between him and the Dragon Emperor was still ongoing. Dragon Emperor's astonishment and Ji Dong's delight disappeared almost at the same time. Ji Dong was blocked by the extreme yang fire that Dragon Emperor had forced out of his body. But as soon as he retreated, he rushed forward again. The entire Dragon Emperor's cave mansion seemed to shake violently when he touched the ground with his tiptoe. Ji Dong's tiptoe left a half-foot-deep depression on the ground. The next moment, he rushed towards Dragon Emperor again, as fast as lightning. he used the flying snake flash without hesitation. After practicing it in actual combat, he had already fully applied it to actual combat. Again, the Dragon Emperor sneered in his heart. Will I suffer from the same attack again? Opening his mouth, the Dragon Emperor spat out a breath arrow from his mouth. Breathing was the specialty of the Dragon Clan. As soon as this breath arrow was spat out, it instantly condensed in the air like a huge transparent diamond. It went straight for Ji-dong with a speed that was not inferior to Ji-dong's flying snake flash. Just as Ji-dong's figure leaped out, he also made a somewhat strange movement. He placed his left hand behind his back and raised his right hand above his head, making a grabbing motion towards the ceiling of the cave abode. Just as the diamond was about to reach him, he suddenly changed direction without any warning. This was the wondrous use of the god-slaying attraction that he had just comprehended. He used the god-slaying attraction's pull on the ceiling of the cave abode to pull his body in a different direction, completely violating the law of inertia to dodge in an instant. The massive diamond mana in the air suddenly lost its target and inevitably paused for a moment. Although it moved in the next moment and chased after Ji-dong, it was still a beat too late. Ji-dong's figure had already appeared above the Dragon Emperor's head. Ji-dong curled his body into a ball and stretched out his right hand at lightning speed. Using the dark moon dance, Ji-dong's body flickered in the air. The flicker should not be underestimated. Under the effect of the perfect combination of Ji-dong's soul power and mana, even a saint-level powerhouse like the Dragon Emperor couldn't help but be in a trance for a moment. He actually couldn't grasp Ji-dong's position. He could only raise his right hand subconsciously and slap the air. A layer of yellow light shield appeared out of nowhere and protected the position above him. However, Ji-dong had already achieved his goal. He knew very well that with the Dragon Emperor's reaction speed, even if he used the flying serpent flash, he wouldn't be able to escape from the Dragon Emperor's grasp. Being in the air, he had no leverage. Once he was trapped by the Dragon Emperor's mana, he wouldn't stand a chance. The Dragon Emperor misjudged the direction of the god-killing attraction, and the Dark Moon Dance was an extension of the Dragon Emperor's mistake. The purpose of this move was very simple. He wanted to prevent the Dragon Emperor from making a correct response before Ji-dong achieved his goal. Twisting his body in the Dark Moon Dance, Ji-dong used God of Destruction again. This time, his target was the ground behind the Dragon Emperor. The God of Destruction attraction and the Flying Snake Flash allowed Ji-dong to successfully appear behind the Dragon Emperor. Without turning around or accumulating power, Ji-dong fought for that tiny moment that was 10 times smaller than the blink of an eye. When he appeared behind the Dragon Emperor, his back was directly pressed against the Dragon Emperor's back. His left hand that had been placed behind the Dragon Emperor's back was also pressed against the Dragon Emperor's back. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Ji-dong's left hand had successfully landed on the Dragon Emperor's body, just like how his Dark Moon Claw had hit the Dragon Emperor previously. However, this time, it was no longer the Dark Moon Claw. If the Dragon Emperor could see it, he would find that Ji-dong's left hand had already turned pitch black like a piece of black ice. The moment his right hand pressed against the Dragon Emperor's back, an extremely cold and gloomy feeling was injected into the Dragon Emperor's body. Even the Dragon Emperor, who had a strong body, couldn't help but shiver as his body became stiff and numb. With a soft sound, a puff of blood mist spurted out of the pores on Ji-dong's left hand. It was not caused by the Dragon Emperor, but by himself. In battle, Ji-dong was always so violent. This violence was not only directed at his opponent, but also at himself. In order to gain the upper hand, he was even willing to pay the price of injury. His left hand seemed to be a simple stamp, but in fact, he paid a great price. Forbidden, 100,000 ice of ghostly flames, the ultimate skill of the Dark Flame Devil King. Ji-dong could now use this skill as easily as moving his arm. However, What if he condensed the ice of ghostly flames in his palm like the god-slaying strike and then used it against his body? It was easy for Ji Dong to compress the ultimate fire by 4 times, but it was a powerful ultimate skill that was already extremely condensed. The pressure he had to bear was much greater. Yes, Ji Dong forcibly compressed the ghostly flame ice in his left hand in the way of deity-killing strike, turning his left hand as black as ink. When he approached the back of the Dragon Emperor, he gently injected the ghostly flame ice into the Dragon Emperor's body. This strike alone had reached the effect of a super-ultimate skill. Although it couldn't be compared with the ghostly flame ice, one should not forget that the place where the deity-killing strike was launched was inside the enemy's body. The blackness almost spread to every part of the Dragon Emperor's body in an instant. The Dragon Emperor's body turned into a black crystal, and the meridians in Ji Dong's left hand were damaged because of the terrifying compressed demonic power. Blood spurted out of the pores. If he hadn't reached the advanced level of the Flying Serpent Strength Conversion skill, his entire left hand, or even his left arm, would have been blown into pieces by the highly compressed demonic power. Even with the help of Ji Dong's Dragon Snake transformation, his left hand temporarily lost the ability to fight and hung down softly. However, it was enough for him. He tiptoed and used Dark Moon Dance again, but this time it was to help Ji Dong turn around. Of course, Ji Dong knew that even if he injected the ghostly flame ice into the Dragon Emperor's body with deity-killing strike, it wouldn't be able to trap the Dragon Emperor for a long time. He also had to seize every second. In the process of turning around, Ji Dong's right hand had completely turned into a brilliant golden color. The golden palm silently patted on the Dragon Emperor's back. With a soft puff, Ji Dong's right hand firmly pressed on the Dragon Emperor's back like a soldering iron. A strange buzzing sound was heard all of a sudden, and another cloud of blood spurted out. This time it was his right hand. Since Ji Dong could forcefully compress the ghostly flame ice, he could naturally compress the brilliant sun all as well. 2 gentle palms. Ji Dong had temporarily crippled his hands, but he had also imprinted the 2 deity-killing skills into the Dragon Emperor's body. When Ji Dong's right palm pressed on the Dragon Emperor's back, Chen Xishuan reacted almost at the same time. She quickly curled up her body and activated the armor of the Goddess of Life and Eternal Protection before leaping out at the same time. Buzz! Boom! The expressions of the 4 Dragon Kings and the Heavenly Stem Saints changed at the same time. In the next moment, an unparalleled shockwave had already surged out of the cave. The 4 Dragon Kings and the Dian Sacred Fire Dragon released their mana at almost the same time, and only then did they barely manage to resist the terrifying shockwave. However, their bodies and the Heavenly Stem Saints' bodies were forcibly sent flying into the sky. What was more terrifying was that when they flew into the sky of the Dragon Valley, they could clearly see a black and white beam of light shooting into the sky from the peak of the Dragon Valley. In the sky, the sun and the moon flickered, as though the end of the world had arrived. Was the Dragon Emperor Hyoheim going to kill them? That was the first thought that appeared in the minds of the 4 Dragon Kings and the Heavenly Stem Saint. The Fire Dragon King hugged the Sacred Evolution Fire Dragon tightly as it tried to rush out. The other 3 Dragon Kings spread their wings and caught the Heavenly Stem Saint. At that moment their hearts sank. What happened? The Earth Dragon Ancestor's dignified voice came from afar, and there was a tinge of anger in his voice. Within the Dragon Valley, there was a commotion among the dragons, and the majestic scene of thousands of dragons dancing in unison appeared once again. If not for the 4 Dragon Kings flying in the sky, there might have been dragons that had already ascended to investigate. Everyone, return to your positions. We will handle everything. The Diamond Dragon King bellowed, and a massive dragon might was released from his body. In terms of strength, he was second only to the Dragon Emperor and the Earth Dragon Ancestor. It's all right. Senior Dragon Emperor is just sparring with me. Ji Dong's voice was heard at the right time, and his figure gradually appeared in the beam of light that shot up from the peak of the mountain. The strange scene of the sun and moon alternating and the changing light in the sky also gradually disappeared. Ji-dong looked a little disheveled. His sacred Fire King armor was cracked in many places, and his arms hung limply by his side. He spread his wings and barely managed to hover in the sky. "Yeah, it's alright. I'm just sparring with my little friend Ji-dong." The Dragon Emperor's voice was heard at the same time, and his body appeared below Ji-dong. On the surface, the Dragon Emperor in his human form seemed much more composed than Ji-dong. His hands were behind his back, and there was a tinge of elegance amidst his dignified aura. However, the few Dragon Kings that were the most familiar with him realized that the Dragon Emperor's gaze was a little strange. Seeing that Ji-dong was fine, the Heavenly Stem holy disciples heaved a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as he was fine. Ji-dong and the Dragon Emperor were both flying in the sky, and there was a huge hole with a diameter of 5 meters beneath their feet. This hole led directly to the Dragon Emperor's cave abode. To be more precise, a hole had been blasted open above the Dragon Emperor's cave abode. The Heavenly Stem holy disciples and the 4 Dragon Kings couldn't see that behind the Dragon Emperor there was a black and gold handprint that was emitting hot steam. The Dragon Emperor's voice rang out in Ji-dong's soul. "Brat, you're so ruthless. You're not going to tell anyone about what happened just now? Did you hear me?" Ji-dong chuckled and replied, "Senior Dragon Emperor, I didn't do it on purpose. Who asked you to be so powerful? I had no choice but to give it my all." The Dragon Emperor snorted angrily. "If my clansmen knew that you injured this emperor, you can forget about walking out alive. You're too cunning." Ji-dong smiled. "Senior Dragon Emperor, I only want to know if I'm qualified to be the partner of Maotai and Wuliangye after your inspection." The Dragon Emperor snorted. "Barely." Chapter 448. The fact that the Dragon Emperor could call Ji-dong as a brat showed how depressed he was right now. When Ji-dong's spirit-exterminating netherflame ice struck his body, the Dragon Emperor's body was only able to dissolve 30% of the power. The remaining 70% of the power was completely unleashed in his body. The Dragon Emperor couldn't neutralize the highly compressed netherflame ice in an instant, which was why he was sealed by the netherflame ice. Of course, it was impossible for the netherflame ice to corrode the Dragon Emperor's incomparably tough body. However, at this moment, Ji-dong's spirit-extinguishing brilliant sun all came again. The highly compressed dark flame ice collided with the highly compressed brilliant sun all. The two combined and unleashed a super sure-kill sun and moon yin-yang boundary in the Dragon Emperor's body. What made the Dragon Emperor speechless was that after this super sure-kill was formed, it did not absorb Ji-dong's demonic power, but his demonic power. After all, this super sure-kill was formed in his body. When the two demonic skills that were equivalent to super sure-kill fused together, the actual power of this strike had already reached the effect of a high-level super sure-kill skill. Moreover, it was unleashed in the Dragon Emperor's body. Therefore, even the Dragon Emperor with his strong body could not withstand it. The Dragon Emperor had a hard time using his saint-level strength and the power of the chaotic soil to guide the eruption of the super sure-kill skill out of his body. However, he could no longer control it, which resulted in a huge hole being blown up on the ceiling of the Dragon Emperor's cave mansion. The Dragon Emperor was also injured. Although the injury was not serious, it was already an incredible situation for him. Of course, this did not mean that Ji-dong had the power to injure the Dragon Emperor. The main reason why he could injure the Dragon Emperor was that the Dragon Emperor did not want to hurt him. Therefore, the Dragon Emperor had been enduring the attacks passively. Otherwise, whether the Dragon Emperor released his Dragon Drill Overlord Demon Domain or switched from defense to offense, Ji-dong would definitely not be able to resist it. However, no matter what, Ji-dong had passed the Dragon Emperor's test successfully. In terms of calculation, it was wisest for him not to use the Fire God Sword. Chen Sichuan couldn't help him improve his soul power. Given his own soul power, Ji Dong couldn't completely suppress the spiritual awareness of sharpness which was sealed in the fire god's sword. Once he used the fire god's sword, not only would he be likely to be devoured by the spiritual awareness of sharpness, but he would also have to pause in the process of using the fire god's sword. Even if he used the fire god's sword, he might not be able to hurt the Dragon Emperor. Ji Dong's painstaking cultivation in the treasure of the 5 elements formation did not go to waste. He could feel the power of the deity killing strike more and more. If he continued to cultivate like this, he would be invincible in close combat in the human world sooner or later. This deity killing strike would also be the most advantageous weapon for him to deal with dark divination and dark saints in the future. Of course, Ji Dong had to face many problems now. Given the strength of his dragon snake transformation, his hands had suffered such a great damage when he compressed the deity killing strike. Therefore, when he improved his deity killing strike to a higher level, he might not be able to compress it anymore. This was also the disadvantage of the deity killing strike. Due to the high concentration of demonic power, it could not be combined with other skills. With the experience of injuring the Dragon Emperor, his desire to fuse the deity killing strike with other skills had increased. He could only continue to explore. When the Dragon Emperor and Ji Dong returned to the Dragon Emperor's cave residence, the palm print on the Dragon Emperor's back had gradually disappeared. It was not a problem for the Dragon Emperor to hide his injuries. The real injury was the Dragon Emperor's confidence and heart. "Thank you for your guidance, Senior Dragon Emperor." Ji Dong stood in front of the Dragon Emperor and bowed respectfully. The Dragon Emperor grunted, "You guys can leave as well. Vanessa will arrange a place for all of you to stay. As the Heavenly Stem Saint King of this generation, it wouldn't be a disgrace for Maotai and Wuliangye to follow you. Don't forget the conditions that I've mentioned. You must protect them." Ji Dong said solemnly, "If you want to hurt them, you'll have to step over my dead body first." The Dragon Emperor's gaze softened a little. He sighed and said, "It's not easy for them to return home. Let our family reunite for a few more days. You guys can also stay in the Dragon Valley for a period of time. At the same time, choose a mount for your companions. The Dragon Kings will arrange these things for you. Go." "Thank you, Senior Dragon Emperor." Ji Dong shot a glance at Chen Sichuan, who was not far away. The two of them smiled at each other before walking out together. The Dragon Emperor watched them leave until he determined that they couldn't hear anything from the cave. Then, he pounced on the wall at the side and pounded on it. "Shameful, this is too shameful. I can't believe I was injured by a human brat. I wonder how the great ancestors will laugh at me." The Dragon Kings might not know what happened here, but the Earth Dragon ancestor had already scanned the area with his soul power after he spoke. How could he not know? One could imagine how depressed the Dragon Emperor was. If it wasn't for the fact that Ji Dong was the savior of Maotai and Wuliangye, he wouldn't have let the matter go so easily. At the very least, he would have given Ji Dong a beating. The Dragon Emperor only stopped after hammering the wall for a long time. There was a strange look in his eyes, as if he was recalling something. He said, "That brat's move was really ingenious." In order to not give me time to react, he put his left hand behind his back. Is he that confident that he can get behind me smoothly? The way Ji Dong had turned to get behind the Earth Dragon ancestor, then turned around and hammered left a deep impression on the Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor knew that he wouldn't be able to achieve this speed before he reached the Martial Saint tier. Outside the Dragon Valley, Ajin closed her eyes and sat cross-legged in front of the Earth Dragon ancestor. Her back was facing the Earth Dragon ancestor, and one could vaguely see that her body was emitting a faint golden light. That was not the light that belonged to Ultimate Metal, but a special kind of light. The Earth Dragon ancestor suddenly laughed and said, "Good. That brat Dragon Emperor has suffered a loss this time. How interesting. I didn't expect that the brat who came with you would have such a trick up his sleeve. Even I wouldn't feel good from such an attack. I just don't know what method he used to compress his mana to such a high degree. Jean opened her eyes and turned around. She looked at the Earth Dragon ancestor curiously and said, "Father, what happened to make you so happy?" The Earth Dragon ancestor smiled and said, "I'm not happy. I just find it a little funny. That brat Ji-dong who came with you just received a test from the Dragon Emperor. Guess what the result was?" Jean was stunned. After recovering her memories, her expression was no longer as cold in front of her father. She said, "Senior Dragon Emperor is a martial saint. How could Ji-dong be a match for him? Why did he test Ji-dong?" "I don't know why he wanted to test him, but you have to pay attention to one thing. The Dragon Emperor of this generation is not a senior to you, but a junior. In terms of actual age, he is many years younger than you." Jean was slightly annoyed and said, "Father, aren't you making me sound very old? Am I that old? You haven't said what the result was. Judging from your expression, it can't be that Ji-dong one, right? That's impossible. Although Ji-dong's combat ability is strong, and he has the ultimate dual flames and the Fire God sword, it shouldn't be possible for him to defeat a martial saint." The Earth Dragon ancestor looked at his daughter, who was smiling coquettishly in front of him. Warmth filled his eyes. His heartstrings, which had been calm for who knew how many years, were often tugged on ever since he saw his daughter. "Silly girl, you underestimated that companion of yours. The Dragon Emperor naturally wouldn't go all out in his test, but he broke through strength with skill. I didn't see exactly how he did it, but the result was that the Dragon Emperor was indeed injured. This young man is really interesting. My daughter, why are you in such a bad mood? Could it be that that brat is your lover? But that Ewood elemental girl among you seems to be very interested in him as well." Jean was shocked and looked up at her father. She quickly shook her head and said, "No, he and I are just ordinary friends." The Earth Dragon ancestor smiled and said, "Are you really just ordinary friends?" Jean blushed slightly and sighed inwardly. She looked up at the Earth Dragon ancestor and said, "Father, didn't you say that you would help me awaken the dragon bloodline? I'm already prepared. Let's begin." The Heavenly Stem holy disciples were arranged to stay in a cave at the bottom of the Dragon Valley. In the Dragon Valley, it was spring all year round, and rare plants that were rarely seen in the outside world grew everywhere. Moreover, many of the plants had lived for thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years. Everywhere was full of vitality. Ji-dong kept his promise to the Dragon Emperor and did not tell them the details of the battle between him and the Dragon Emperor. Just like that, everyone stayed in the Dragon Valley temporarily. Of course, the Saint Evolution Fire Dragon would not stay with Ji-dong for the time being. Instead, he openly moved into the Dragon Emperor's cave residence that had a hole blasted open and reunited with the Dragon Emperor and the Fire Dragon King. After all, the Dragon Tribe's residence was not divided into rooms like humans. The Heavenly Stem Holy Disciples' residence was an extremely large cave. Although it could not be compared to the Dragon Emperor's cave residence, it was rather large for only 10 of them. "Everyone, gather here. I have something to discuss with all of you," Ji-dong said in a loud voice. It had already been a while since the Heavenly Stem Holy Disciples had gathered over. Ji-dong had previously sat cross-legged and cultivated for a long time, and even drank a small mouthful of the Source of Life. Everyone knew that he had definitely suffered a loss in the Dragon Emperor's assessment, but ever since Ji-dong had been tested by the Dragon Emperor, he had always had a smile on his face. This was a situation they had not seen for a long time. Ji-dong simply moved his hands and felt much more comfortable. He thought to himself that this 1,000-year-old source of life was really magical. It contained a huge amount of vitality that was extremely beneficial to the recovery of any injury. Previously, the meridians in his hands had been severely damaged. Under normal circumstances, it would have taken him at least 10 days to recover. However, after drinking a small mouthful of the Source of Life, coupled with the guidance of mana, he felt much better. Although he still couldn't exert his strength, he could already move his hands. At most, it would take 2 days for him to recover to his normal state. The battle with the Dragon Emperor today had given Ji Dong a lot of inspiration. He had thought about many things when he was cultivating to clear his meridians. For ordinary demon masters, they must be wholeheartedly in the process of cultivation. Once they were distracted, they might suffer from qi deviation. However, Ji Dong didn't have to worry about this. One reason was that he had the assistance of the chaotic force, so he didn't have to worry about qi deviation. Another reason was that his soul energy was powerful enough. Even if he was distracted, it wouldn't affect him too much. Seeing that everyone had gathered, Ji Dong asked them to sit down first. They formed a circle. Anyway, there wouldn't be any tables or chairs here. Ji Dong said, "The Red Lotus heavenly fire has been burning for more than a year in the Holy Evil Island. We have less than 4 years left. The 5 elements mutual generation and circulation formation should have begun to be imparted to ordinary demon masters under the support of the Demon Master Union and the 5 empires. In the future Holy War, at least we won't suffer any losses with the help of the 5 elements formation. However, I believe that everyone understands that the key to the victory of the Holy War lies in the collision between the powerhouses of both sides. We have at least 10 supreme powerhouses in the 5 elements continent, and there should be a lot of them in the 5 elements continent. We can offset each other for the time being. So, our biggest problem is the dark divination and the dark heavenly disciples who have mastered the 10 artifacts." Hearing Ji Dong's words, the 5 elements formation silently nodded. Ji Dong was right. The biggest problem they had to face in the future was this. Ji Dong said in a deep voice, "The dark heavenly disciples have all 10 artifacts. Practicing together will definitely get twice the result with half the effort. Moreover, they have the assistance of dark divination who has devoured the 4 holy beasts. We can't judge how much they can grow in 5 years. We must estimate our enemies as high as possible. If they can all cultivate to the level of 9 crowns, how can we fight against them?" Fury said in a deep voice, "Without dark divination, I believe that we have the power to fight against them. They are not weak, and we are not easy to deal with either. Although we can't compare with them in terms of artifacts, we have you, the Saint King with dual fire attributes, and me, an outsider. It won't be easy for the dark heavenly disciples to take advantage of us. The key is still dark divination. With our current strength, or the strength that the 5 elements continent can mobilize, we can't fight against him at all unless—" Speaking of this, Fury couldn't help looking outside the cave. After devouring the 4 holy beasts, dark divination was definitely at the peak of the Saint Realm. They had also met the same peak of the Saint Realm before. Chapter 449. Ji Dong sighed and said, "Senior brother, I understand what you mean. The Earth Dragon Ancestor is the one who has the highest chance of defeating the dark divination. However, the Earth Dragon Ancestor has already fused with the 3 Harmony Mountain Range. If we want him to defeat the dark divination, we'll have to lure the dark divination here. That won't be an easy task. Furthermore, we can't accurately judge the strength of the dark 5-star mainland. Who knows what the situation is like with the Dragon Clan on their side. Hence, I have an idea that I'd like to discuss with everyone. No matter what happens in the future, it's most important for us to improve our strength as much as possible. Only when we're strong enough can we adapt to any situation. I believe everyone can feel that the density of the magical elements in the Dragon Valley is at least 5 to 10 times that of the outside world. If we cultivate here, we'll definitely be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Furthermore, there are so many powerful dragons here. Given our current relationship with the Dragon Clan, as well as the father-daughter relationship between Ah Jin and the Earth Dragon Ancestor, I believe it won't be difficult for us to get some help from the Dragon Clan. If we can ask the Dragon Clan to help us with actual combat training, it will definitely further stimulate our potential. Furthermore, we should be able to choose our magical beast companions from the Dragon Clan in the next few days. I've already discussed this with the Dragon Emperor. It's essential for all of you to familiarize yourselves with your magical beast companions in the Dragon Valley. Once we have our own mounts and cultivate here for as long as possible, our overall strength will rise to another level. When that time comes, it'll be time for us to head to the core world. What I have to tell everyone is that although the Flaming Bar is my wife, I've only been to the 18th floor where the Flaming Bar live. I don't know much about the core world, so I can't let anyone take the risk. This time, I think we'll need at least a year or two to diligently cultivate in the Dragon Valley. During this time, we'll be able to focus on our martial arts and the 5 elemental cycle formation. We'll also be able to build rapport with our magical beast companions in the Dragon Valley. Once we have our own mounts and cultivate as long as possible, our overall strength will rise to another level. When that time comes, it'll be time for us to head to the core world. Although Ji-dong was the Heavenly Stem Holy King in name, he had never placed his position higher than his companions. He would definitely discuss important matters with everyone. Fury was the first to nod in agreement. Ji-dong is right. What we need the most right now is time. We must make every second count and cultivate diligently. As long as the Dragon Clan allows it, this Dragon Valley is undoubtedly the most suitable place for us to cultivate. The others also nodded in agreement. However, at this moment, the person whom everyone thought would be the least likely to raise any objections spoke up. Teacher Ji-dong, I'm afraid I can't stay here for more than a year or two, Chen Xishuan said. She looked at Ji-dong with her big, clear eyes. Ji-dong was stunned for a moment. He was used to Chen Xishuan's support for everything he did. When he suddenly heard that she couldn't stay here all the time, he couldn't help but feel a little stunned. Xishuan, do you have something you need to deal with? Ji-dong asked doubtfully. He had made the decision to let everyone stay here to cultivate after careful consideration. He didn't know how long it would take for Ajin to awaken his dragon bloodline if he stayed with the Earth Dragon ancestor. If his companions could cultivate here, it would obviously be a shortcut for them to improve their strength. Since he could learn many things from the battle with the Dragon Monarch, he believed that his companions could also improve more through sparring with the dragons and cooperating with their chosen dragon companions. Chen Xishuan nodded and said, I do have something to take care of. Teacher Ji-dong, I'm sorry. This matter is very important to me, and also to our Dongmu Empire. I must return to my country. Ji-dong frowned and asked, when will it be? Chen Xishuan thought about it and said, in about half a year. Ji-dong said in a low voice, Xishuan, you have to understand that you're no longer just the princess of the Dongmu Empire. At the same time, you're also a member of the Heavenly Stem Holy Disciples. Without you, the Heavenly Stem Holy Disciples will lack an attribute. Chen Xishuan lowered her head. Ji-dong didn't see the sly glint in her eyes. She said, Teacher Ji-dong, but this matter is too important to me. If I don't go back, the Dongmu Empire might even be in danger of being destroyed. Hearing her words, everyone was shocked. Fury couldn't help but ask, is it that serious? Then you should go back when the time comes. Once you've chosen a magical beast companion, with the flying speed of a dragon, I believe it won't take too long to return to the Dongmu Empire. Chen Xishuan nodded silently. She then raised her head to peek at Hyoheim. Ji-dong's expression didn't look too good. It was obvious that he was a little dissatisfied with her returning to the Dongmu Empire. In fact, even Ji-dong himself didn't know that in his heart, he was already somewhat inseparable from Chen Xishuan. Ever since Chen Xishuan was by his side, all of his daily life had been taken care of by Chen Xishuan. During battles, Chen Xishuan would even fuse with his soul. Would feeds fire, and she was even better than Yao Qianshu. When he suddenly heard that Chen Xishuan wanted to leave, Ji-dong's first reaction was to be unwilling. Moreover, Chen Xishuan was the one who had been introduced to the heavenly stem holy disciples. If she left and didn't return, Ji Dong wouldn't be able to explain it to his companions. Miao Miao walked to Chen Xishuan's side and held her hand. She said, "Xishuan, we're all together to deal with the crisis 5 years later. We heavenly stem holy disciples are a whole. If you want to go back, we won't stop you. But can you tell us what you're going back for? That way, we'll all have some idea." Recently, perhaps it was because they shared a common enemy, Miao Miao and Chen Xishuan had become very close. The two women often discussed how to deal with the two brothers, Ji Dong and Fury. When Miao Miao spoke to Chen Xishuan, her back was facing Ji Dong and Fury. As she spoke, she winked at Chen Xishuan. When the two women's eyes met, they revealed a knowing smile. Chen Xishuan said, "This time, I'm going back to break off the engagement." Break off the engagement? As soon as these two words came out, the heavenly stem holy disciples were in an uproar. Everyone looked at each other and couldn't accept it for a moment. In the eyes of the heavenly stem holy disciples, Chen Xishuan had always followed Ji Dong. Although Ji Dong had never expressed his acceptance of her, even Lan Bauer had sadly regarded her as Ji Dong's woman. Jin, who was cold and arrogant in everyone's eyes, no longer objected to her being with Ji Dong. However, no one had expected that Chen Xishuan was already engaged. "You're engaged?" Fury looked at Chen Xishuan and his face immediately darkened. He was very happy that Chen Xishuan had chased after Ji Dong. He was also one of the people who hoped that Chen Xishuan would succeed the most. Only when Ji Dong truly accepted her would he be able to recover from the grief brought about by the death of the flaming bar. At this moment, when he heard that Chen Xishuan was engaged, Fury's heart immediately surged with an intense anger. Chen Xishuan nodded and said, "When I was very young, father arranged a marriage for me. Calculating the time, by the end of this year, it should be time to fulfill the engagement. Brother Fury, you should also know that as a member of the royal family, we have no say in our marriage. Moreover, when the engagement was made, I was only a little girl. However, the person I like is Teacher Ji Dong. Regardless of whether Teacher Ji Dong accepts my love, I will only like him. Therefore, I must make a trip back to the Eastern Wood Empire and settle this matter. After that, I can wholeheartedly face the war between the dark and light continents with everyone." Listening to Chen Xishuan's undisguised confession, Ji Dong could not help but turn his head. He did not dare to meet her clear eyes. Miao Miao secretly gave Chen Xishuan a thumbs up. Lan Bauer, who was not far away, widened her eyes. She also liked Ji Dong, but if she had to confess her love in front of so many people, she would not be able to do it no matter what. Moreover, when Chen Xishuan said these words, her eyes were firmly fixed on Ji Dong. Everyone could feel her determination. Fury's expression softened. He said, "If that's the case, then you should settle this matter as soon as possible. However, I heard you say that if you do not go back to settle this matter, the Dongmu Empire will be in danger of being destroyed. Could it be that the man you are engaged to is actually so strong? Is he a prince of some country?" Chen Xishuan shook her head and said, "He is not a prince. If you must say who they are, I think the word hermit is the most suitable to describe them. Everyone should still remember that during the Devil Master Union's Elder Council, the Dongmu Empire also elected 2 elders. Those 2 elders live in seclusion in the Dongmu Empire. They can be said to be the pillars of the empire. They are both Supreme Being experts. At the same time, they are also the great-grandparents of my fiancé. My fiancé is the heir of this hermit family." Hearing her say this, Fury's expression became a little more serious. Ji Dong could not help but turn his head. With 2 Supreme Being experts as support, it was no wonder that Chen Xishuan was so serious. Indeed, for a country, a hermit family with 2 Supreme Being experts was enough to bring great trouble to the entire country. Miao Miao frowned and said, "If that's the case, it will not be easy for you to break off the engagement. You are the most beautiful woman in the world. Will they agree to it? What if they don't agree? Although you are now a heavenly STEM saint and have the status of a princess, they have two supreme being experts around. If they want to capture you and marry you, there is nothing you can do. Chen Sichuan's eyes were filled with determination. She said, "No matter what, I will definitely handle this matter well. If I want to marry someone, I will only marry one person in my life." As she said this, her gaze fell on Jidong. She said, "If I insist on marrying someone else, the worst outcome will be my corpse. I can't defeat two supreme being experts, but can't I decide whether I live or die?" She said this last sentence very resolutely. Fury said, "How can we do that? You're a holy disciple of the Emu heavenly stem. Even a supreme being can't force you. Big Brother Fury will handle this. When you return, I'll go with you. I want to see who dares to force you. Who are you to care about? You are not legitimate. Who are you to Sichuan?" Meow Meow moved sideways and came to Fury's side. As she spoke, she stretched out her small hand and pinched Fury's thigh hard. Fury felt the pain and turned his head to look at Meow Meow. He saw that Meow Meow was giving him an unhappy look. Fury looked rough on the outside, but his thoughts were extremely meticulous. With Meow Meow's reminder, he immediately came to his senses. He slapped his forehead and said, "That's right. We can't do this without a good reason. If we want to break off the engagement, we must first have a good reason. Sai, what should we do?" Chen Sichuan smiled sadly and said, "It's nothing. I will handle it myself. Everyone, don't worry about me." "Sichuan, how can this be? We are all one. If something happens to you, how can we just sit back and do nothing? Big Brother Fury's reputation is indeed unjustified, but my master's reputation is justified." This time, it was Du Xian who spoke. Among the heavenly STEM saints, she was definitely the most thoughtless one. When she saw Chen Sichuan's pitiful appearance, she could not help but interject. Chen Sichuan looked at Du Xian and really had the urge to rush up and hug her and kiss her. Xian words were too timely. Ji Dong looked at Du Xian coldly and said, "How am I legitimate?" Du Xian said, "Teacher, the one Sichuan likes is you. If you help Sichuan break off the engagement, it will naturally be legitimate." "Nonsense," Ji Dong said angrily. "It's her business that she likes me. She and I are only teacher and student and friends. There is no love between a man and a woman. What reason do I have to help her break off the engagement?" Du Xian widened her eyes and said, "Teacher, you can't be so heartless. We can all see how Sichuan treats you. It's too sad for you to say that." Meow Meow immediately chimed in from the side and said, "That's right. Sichuan treats you so well. Even if you don't want her, you can still help her at a critical moment. Besides, what's wrong with Sichuan? She's the 10th most beautiful woman in the world. I can't help but feel pity for her. You're simply a blockhead." "Enough." Ji Dong let out a low roar, and a cold and deathly aura was suddenly released from his body. Everyone shivered and immediately shut their mouth. Ji Dong's gaze swept across everyone's faces and said, "I've said it many times. In this life, I will only love Flaming Bar alone. Emotional matters are my own business. No one has the right to decide for me.